Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And I'm Argy.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we spoil the biggest plot twist of the season in the first episode, because this week we watched World Enough in Time and The Doctor Falls.
Written by Stephen Moffat.
Directed by Rachel Talalay.
And aired on June 23rd and July 1st, 2017.
Except I'm not going to let them ruin it. I'm not going to let them do the plot twists. I told them no, it's evil.
Yeah, Argy shut us down. She was like, no, we're not spoiling it at the start of the episode. It's not happening. We want people to go into this episode as unspoiled as possible.
Well, there will be spoilers, but they'll be appropriately timed.
Right.
So you can't read to the end of the book with this one.
And
can't turn to the end of the book.
Quick shout out to both Dylan and JB Anderton for making me or suggesting that I not watch any of the previews for the episodes that spoiled the big spoiler for this. Yes. It was all worth it. It was all worth it in the end.
I told you it would be.
I hadn't watched it either. I hadn't seen any previews either. So it was terrific for me.
Oh, yeah. See, I had watched the very first preview of the very first episode, and, well, they're buggers up the whole season.
Yep.
You know, they got in a lot of trouble for some of the stuff they said before this. So I think we can talk about spoilers now. Sims being in it, they spoiled before this.
Right.
So, yeah, people knew who that character was straight away. I didn't recognise him.
Yeah.
We sort of rocking the Delgado beard in this. So.
Oh, hell yeah. we will get down to that. We will get down
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. Well, we're going to try to do the thing we did with Alpha Centauri's return, which is not mention it at all until the final minute, and then just bust out that Alpha Centauri impression. I brought it back. I know you've missed the episodes so far, IG, but I brought back my Alpha Centauri, so it's in there for all our diehard fans who remember Monster of Peloton.
Yeah, I must confess to people that I haven't watched for a while. Just other things have been happening for me. So if I say stuff and it's been referred to in other episodes, I apologise up front.
Well, that's also a good segue to mention that there's because of the time zone difference and the hemisphere difference and the latitude difference, that there's a bit of a delay on our Skype call. So
if I sound like I'm cutting them off, it's just I'm not.
It's just the internet.
I am. But we're pretending that I'm not. So. Okay, so I just wanted, before we start this episode, I just wanted to say this episode, a lot of themes in it link back to stuff from the earliest series of Doctor Who. And I've been a Doctor Who fan since the 80s. I apologise if I've said this before on this podcast. I just can't rember.
I don't think you have.
I think I've said this next bit. So ABC TV used to constantly run reruns of Pertwee, sometimes pronounced Pertwee. Am I right?
Only by Keon.
Shoot me.
That's a forever out there in the world.
So John Pertwee and Tom Baker, they just kept running reruns over and over and over. So the first Doctor I saw live was Tom Baker. I started watched during his time, but the first Doctor that I ever watched was John. So I can't even say it properly now. John Pertwee. So I think going back to him just makes other things resonate with you in this episode. This episode has episodes have so many throwbacks.
Well, that's something we've been talking about this whole season, actually, how this whole season is like very much just a throwback to Classic Who and is a hybrid between modern Who and Classic Who. You know, that's
Moffat for you. When he's allowed to do what he wants, he will do that. I feel.
But that's so weird to me because so much of like last season was like arguably overly Moffat-y and had so much, of Moffat's trademarks. And then this one, which is like his last hurrah, is more of a throwback season.
I liken it to the Beatles making Abbey Road. So they actually made Let It Be before they made Abbey Road. And they hated the process, and it was just left in a big pile, and eventually Phil Spector had to come in and actually re-edit it and put it together. But with Abbey Road, they said, we've had enough of this, hijinks where everyone's in a different room. Let's go back to recording how we did originally. So just make it nice and loose, not use too much production on things, and just all get together and write good songs and play them, and that's it. And I think that might be what Moffat's doing. I think Moffat's gone, well, I've Moffated the series, I've Moffated the hell out of it, so let's just try going back to how it was. Nice, simple, clean stories, I think it worked, but apparently it rated very poorly. I'm disappointed by that.
Well, I was going to say that I think the way that I look at it is similar, but also I think the way I look at it is that Series 8, when the 12th Doctor landed, there was like a drop in viewership because it wasn't Matt Smith and it wasn't David Tennant. And I think Series 9 was a reaction to that, where Moffat was like, let's go back to what I did that made the show popular, which is not necessarily what Moffat wanted to do with the 12th Doctor, but what made the show popular. And I think I remember reading, I might be misremembering, but I think I remember reading that Series 10 was actually supposed to be Chibnall's first season, but they didn't want to go a whole year without Doctor Who, so the BBC basically begged Moffat to make another season. And I think that might be why the season is more Moffat actually doing what he wants to do rather than what made the show popular, because the BBC was basically begging him to stay to do the series and gave him a lot more free reign because of that.
I could see that could work for sure. I liked it. This is, I think, Capaldi obviously isn't the young, gorgeous, beautiful man. But he is a seasoned actor, and that comes through so many times. And this last season, I just thought was so clever. When I first saw Capaldi, I also think Capaldi takes time to grow on you. So when I first watched his episodes, I went, yeah, they're okay. But then I found myself thinking about them over time and going back and watching them. And he's now my most watched Doctor of the current series, apart from Jodie. But I really dug his Doctor by the end. So Matt Smith was my favourite Doctor up until him. I'm a bit torn to say who's my favourite at the moment. But if I was honest, I've watched him much more than the other two I like. So yeah.
Well, I'm not torn at all. I can just say flat out Capaldi's my favourite Doctor.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I think he's definitely up there for me. He's my second favourite, if not my favourite.
Just your first favourite is
Tom Baker.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't counting the old series. Oh, yeah. Tom Baker's my Doctor.
Oh,
yeah,
I count Capaldi later.
Never any question about that. I separate them out, though, because the new series is different from that old series.
Right.
And also I've got the nostalgia. You get your first Doctor is your first Doctor usually.
Yeah, well, that was the first Doctor for
I don't have much love for Hartnell, to be honest. He was my first Doctor, and I wouldn't rank him even in like my top 3.
No, I don't think he's great to be. Yeah, I don't think he's that amazing. His acting is very ordinary.
He's so lovable.
He is, but you've got to remember your
Breaking
lines.
so much.
Like you have one job, and that's remember your lines.
Oh, but he was
Really
having a
good.
tough time. Also, like we mentioned last week, Barbara was the
Barbara
one with
did
the
it
most
too.
egregious offense of that. Everybody seems to forget this, but there was a moment where Jacqueline Hill gets halfway through the line, stops, and says the whole line again. And for all the stuff we give William Hartnell, he never did that. He always just finished the line and went on.
Okay. Yeah, okay. But I see. I have trouble too because my second favourite Doctor of the whole series is number 6. So I know. People hate 6. He's one of the least favourite. My least favourite is probably 7. I'd have to say.
I love 7. I really like 7.
Dylan
When I
about
say
to quit the
least favourite,
podcast
I'm not
here.
saying I hate them. I'm just saying they're my least favourite. So I like them all. They all bring different things. Of the new series, I'll get in trouble if I say that. No, I'm going to say it anyway. My least favourite is Tennant of the new series because I just felt like he stole everything from Tom Baker. But I know people love him. He's their favourite. No one's doing it as good as him. Yeah, we'll get lost. Capaldi did it better.
I mean, the fourth Doctor just stole everything from the second Doctor if we really want to go all the way back, so...
Yeah, I must confess I haven't watched much of 1 and 2. I need to get onto that a bit more.
4 is just like a remix of 2. Then 10's like a remix of 4,
Well,
so like, who wins out in the end?
But I have watched all of 6 twice, so I think that's good. Actually, 3 times because I saw it. This is the other thing. The old school among us don't call ourselves. We don't call it the Hooniverse, and we don't say we're what's the actual title for it?
Hooligans.
I know,
Yeah,
because you
yeah.
call
Oh,
yourself
I do not
hooligans.
Oh my god.
I just call myself a Doctor Who fan, and we will actually say Doctor Who all the time, and we'll write it. So in my notes here, I've got Doctor written out in full every single time because it's a name. So I won't put Dr.
Yeah, I've got Doctor
Yeah,
written out as well,
no,
but I've got
yeah,
Doc a couple times when I got lazy. Yo, Doc, what up?
No, I think I'm as against the term like Whovians and just those
Because
types
you
of
like
things.
hooligans.
No, I don't like hooligans either. I don't like hooligans.
I like hooligans better than Whovians. I mean, so a lot of this stuff comes from. I'm an old Xena fan as well, and we called ourselves Xenites, and we said part of the Xenoverse. And I think because of that, now everyone's trying to fit that kind of moniker on everything. So I guess Hooniverse, I can kind of see how they were doing it, but it annoys me, so I don't do it.
I just stick to the good, tried and true television fan.
Wow, it's a broad category.
Now, just jumping into things a little bit ahead, I looked up where this episode title comes from. Did you look that up at all?
Yeah, it comes from a poem, and I
Yes.
meant to go get the text of the line of the poem where it comes from, because I remember the poem mentioning mistress in there somewhere.
Yes. So the poem's by Andrew Marvell. Sorry, I didn't look up when he was alive, but I take it was quite some time ago. The title was To His Coy Mistress.
That's right.
And the entire line is, well, I believe they're the 2 lines of one of the stanzas. Had we but whirled enough in time, this coyness lady were no crime.
Yeah,
So she obviously doesn't want to put out. And he's saying, well, if we had time to get married and da-da-da-da-da, then, I don't know. I'm shoving my own interpretation on that. I haven't gone and researched or anything.
No, yeah, that seems about right to me. I'm just putting my English major hat back on for
I didn't know you ever took it off.
I think this poem is like one of, I've read it before. I think it's sort of in line with like I think a lot of people who study like this period or just English literature call it like the sexy poems, which
okay.
which are like,
is that the official term? Is it?
Yeah.
They never taught me that at uni. I feel like I've missed out now.
but a lot of them have to do with like a guy trying to get a woman to sleep with them and ending in failure. And John Donne is the best at these. So if anyone wants to read more.
Oh, yes. Yes, the yellow half moon, large and low. Gee, I wonder what that's talking about.
Zoink Scoob.
So why they chose that for this episode, I didn't
Because
find
Stephen
out.
Missy.
Moffat,
Mistress
just because
and Missy.
but because Stephen Moffat is pretentious and likes to cite all the literature he reads to look smart.
Actually, I can kind of see that, though, because he's almost saying if Missy had enough time, she wouldn't be coy about helping the Doctor.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Or if John Sim didn't show up.
Oh, I know. So we had an enigmatic cold open, and I love that it actually was a cold open. It's
a
in
frozen
snow.
wasteland.
Yeah. So why is the Doctor regenerating? But I think this is the first throwback to me. This was like Caves of Androzani. The reason I brought up Caves of Androzani is a lot of people saw in Caves of Androzani that Davison looked like he was going to regen when he was heading for the planet. And he said, nothing can stop me now. Now, this is why I've watched it so many times, or part of the reason. I can't see why they would think he was starting to regenerate during that scene. But they reckon there's something wobbly going on with the camera or something
No,
weird.
I don't remember seeing that
Yeah.
in that episode.
So to me, this is another sort of false regen. Why the way it starts and then doesn't really continue through. It's a bit of a teaser.
Yeah, well, the 12th Doctor's also like fake regen like 3 times now, so
By his own will for what, all of them?
yes.
Oh, well, remember Matt Smith did to heal River's hand after it got broken by one of those weeping angels too.
Oh yeah.
So
Shared his
a few of
regen
them.
energy.
See,
Yeah,
the
but he
Doctor
got it
can't
back.
regen. Yeah. But the Doctor can't regen unless he can. It's just like the sonic screwdriver always works unless it doesn't. And you can always use the TARDIS to escape, except when you can't.
Yeah, well, they can't today, as evidenced. I mean, yeah, actually, I'll save that for later.
Yeah. All right, now the Doctor Who opening for 12 is widely thought of as the best Doctor Who opening ever. And the reason for that is they copied a fan creation. So before Capaldi even started, and this happens with every Doctor, fans go online and they say, "Oh, if I was going to do the opening, it'd look like this." So the BBC department became aware of this fantastic opening. So they, I don't know whether they got permission or whether they went, "Well, you shouldn't be using our property in the first place." But this is so close to the fan-made one. So if you look it up, you'll be able to see how close it is. It is amazing, in my opinion, absolutely amazing. You get all the gears at the start, and you get that sort of time thing with going from Roman numerals, diving into that. And the best part has to be the attack eyebrows.
I think we mentioned this at the start of this era. As far as I've been informed, they actually did hire the guy.
Yeah, I forget. It's like his name's like Bill something or the other.
Bill something. And as far as I know, they actually did hire him to make or work on the intro for the show.
I personally like his fan-made version better than what they actually produced.
To each their
own.
I
think I agree with that. Yeah. So the other thing about the attack eyebrows, I have only met a few people from Doctor Who, and Capaldi's the only Doctor I've actually met at a fan convention. Yeah. And I asked him, would he sign? I always like to get them to sort of personalise the photo I'm getting them to sign, but I don't want them to write my name because I know who I am. I don't need them to remind me. So I usually pick a phrase from the show that best. Yeah, that they're well known for. Sure. So he signed it, "These are my attack eyebrows, Peter Capaldi," which I thought was amazing. And then the other thing I like to do when I have photos taken with them, I can't stand these photos where people just stand there and smile. To me, they're actors. Freaking get them to act and get an interesting photo going. So what I did with them was I got Capaldi again to stand there doing his typical hand out to the front, hand out to the side, attack eyebrows. And I gave Pearl Mackie my phone and I said, "Can you just be speaking to the phone and both of you pretend I'm your new companion?" So that's how we did the photo. And she really took that with gusto. So it actually looks like I'm the latest member of the TARDIS. So I like that kind of stuff. And they were both very accommodating.
Well, that's fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm actually jealous.
You mentioned director Rachel. I say Talale. I haven't looked up how you say it.
Neither have I. I just say it the way that sounds the most fun, which is what I usually do for all of the names until I get corrected by someone.
Well, being British, I would think it would be Talale, but who knows? She directed the season double finales for every single one of Capaldi's era. So 8, 9 and 10. They love her work, and this is another cracker, I think.
Well, it does the Rachel thing where there's a lot of things out of order, which, again, I've noticed has been like predominantly in her episodes.
Yeah, I could see that.
Can really only think of
to the ship.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
I was just going to say I can only think of 1 or 2 episodes in which it occurred that weren't directed by her, but that's neither here nor there.
Maybe they give her the complicated ones because they know she can do a good job of them.
Yeah, I have to wonder how much of that is actually in Stephen Moffat's scripts or how much of that is her.
We'll never know. We could know, but we probably won't ever know.
This would be my guess. My guess would be that Moffat's written a script in a certain way, and she, as the director, might be looking at it and saying, "Okay, I need to make more sense of this, so I'm going to do it in this way." That would be my guess. Who knows?
Well, speaking of out of order things, the Doctor and Bill arrive on this spaceship with Missy and Nardole, and then we immediately get a flashback to explain what's going on.
Just before that, though, we get a really nice intro to the ship.
Yeah, we get a nice little flyby.
So Yeah, it zooms in and we see all these. It looks really odd because we see all these sort of worlds, but they're all lying on their side.
Right, and then we kind of zoom into the ship on that, what you would imagine is like perpendicular to how it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which kind of sets up how the whole thing is positioned later on.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good model work, BBC.
Was it model work or was it CG?
Oh, probably CG.
Now, Star Cops, there's some good model.
Well, see, this is why the Sixth Doctor is so good. The Sixth Doctor has the best model ever in the classic series.
Yeah, but the Seventh Doctor, we get that great CG TARDIS in the intro.
Yeah, but we also get that fantastic trial of the Time Lord. The little ship that they're all on that they suck them into. That model work is amazing. Go have a look at it again. You'll see. How good is the Missy bit piss take? Hello, I'm Doctor Who. And these are my plucky assistants. Thing one and the other one. And then Nardole, I think, says we're not assistants. No, Bill says it. But you know what? They were assistants in the 70s and early 80s. They were called assistants.
They were called assistants. But now they're companions.
No, now they're friends.
They're now friends. You're right, they're friends now.
I hate companions. It sounds... You don't say to somebody, this is my companion.
I don't know. My sober companion. they're like, in a way, they're the Doctor's sober companions for self-destructive behaviors. They're there to stop him from doing these things. As evidenced by this episode, when Bill buggers off, not of her own volition, the Doctor does a lot of self-destructive things that ultimately ends in his death.
There's partners in crime. I like that the best. Put us in charge, BBC.
That was Tennant and Tate, wasn't it?
Yep.
Companions.
Yeah. That's the season of Tennant. That's the only season of Tennant I'll put up with. Because I thought they were terrific together.
They are terrific together. Donna's like one of my favorite companions.
Donna started the like tragic companion. Well, actually, Rose did, but
Rose definitely started the tragic companion thing.
But Rose was rewritten to take away all consequences. Remember?
Yeah, I love this thing. Sorry. Keep going.
Go on. That's all I had to say.
I thought. So apparently in the future, you have to have giant earplugs. Thanks, BBC FX department.
Yeah, I guess those are supposed to be like for the Doctor to communicate with them, but first off, they lose them halfway through the first episode, and second off, they never acquired them before.
But why are they so big? They look like they probably are just earplugs. They probably went cheap. Because future tech wouldn't be like that. Our tech isn't like that.
Well, funny you say. I don't know why this reminded me of who was it with the Texas Instruments calculator?
Oh yeah, it was on Star Cops.
One of the props was a Texas Instruments calculator taped to a chair.
Oh dear.
Well, maybe they were just having trouble communicating over the crunching sound
of the Doctor. When I was watching this, I was like, damn, I really want some chips right now.
You mean crisps?
Crisps, whatever.
Yes, crisps. Now, I love that the Brits do that. Chips and crisps. Okay, so we're chips. This is what we do in Australia to confuse everybody. We're chips and chips. So if you want to differentiate, you say potato chips, which they both are, which means crisps, or you say hot chips, which to you would be fries.
Yeah, they're fries and chips here. But that's like the whole cookie biscuit thing, because like in America, a biscuit is not like in England, a biscuit is what in America is called a cookie.
Yeah, same here. Although the Americanisms are creeping in here, so a lot of young people will just say fries instead of chips now.
And they'll say freedom fries
instead of biscuits.
Nobody says freedom fries.
I'm still holding out freedom fries. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
But they just say fries. No one ever says French fries in the US anyway.
No.
Do they? They just say fries.
Yeah.
Although yesterday I did say I wanted some French fries, so I don't know.
Shame.
What?
I love when Missy... So there's an alarming beat. What does Missy do? Dances to it. Never intimidated this woman.
Well, she dabs when she like talks about how she's saving them precious seconds by just introducing herself as Doctor Who.
I cannot believe that is a part of official Doctor Who footage.
It's terrific.
cannot believe that.
That was used in the preview for this episode too from last week, the one at the end of Eaters of Light. I remember when that aired, everyone was like, "Is that Missy dabbing?"
I'm saving his actual minutes. Dab. So what do you think of the dab? Do you think she does a good dab or not?
No, it was pretty weak.
It's my pinned tweet on Twitter now, so.
It's a pretty weak dab, though. As someone who has only dabbed once in their life, it's a pretty weak dab, just saying.
I send it to my friend every now and then because we've got a thing about dabbing.
Keon sent it to me with the caption, the Shakespeare of our time.
Stephen Moffat. Now, I hope it's the case that Stephen Moffat wrote that into his script and that it wasn't just an acting choice. Because it's something that we can, I hope, no, I'm not saying I know for sure, but I just hope so, because it's something that, Stephen Moffat is a very easy writer to make fun of, right? So that's another thing in the pile.
Well, you know that Michelle Gomez does do quite a lot of improvisation, so it may have been her.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I'm thinking it was.
Yeah.
Because do you remember the Dalek ball fiddle?
Mm-hmm.
That was her improvisation.
Huh.
I'm not sure about the Davros eye poke. I mean, Missy does this stuff that you think, why has no one ever done that before? Like, who hasn't? When she's done it, I thought, poking Davros in the eye, brilliant. Should have been done.
Well,
we're back to future tech again because the Doctor's got 3,000 wires attached to his laptop rather than it being wireless.
More stable connections,
It's true, you do get a more stable connection.
And I noticed in this episode that Missy's flirting all the time as though she was a female version of Captain Jack. But the best Captain Jack flirting is not on Doctor Who, it's on Torchwood. So everybody should watch Torchwood, if only for that.
Well, we'll get there.
Eventually.
But no, I think I really liked the flirting in this episode, and that's not something you'll hear me say often, but I liked it because it was because of who it was between. That's all I'll say for now.
Right.
Well, Bill gets shot.
Oh, no, we're not up there yet. Just hang on. Because we had thing 1 and thing 2, and now we've got exposition and comic relief.
Right.
And I love that because the companions are in there for those functions. So Doctor Who companions are so the Doctor can explain everything, and they can ask, why are we doing this, Doctor? Except when he says, I'll explain later. Come on. So, yeah, they actually are expositions and comic relief. And now Dole says, well, we're not functions. And Missy says, darling, those are genders. But her best idea of British flirting is shouting out something from the shower, can you make me some beans on toast? Which I thought was also very good. So Doctor Who is his actual name.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
It's probably just Stephen Moffat hit and running Doctor Who again.
There's an interesting thing about the title of Doctor Who. So in the credits for the 9th Doctor, he was actually listed as Doctor Who. But when Tennant came along, he got it changed back to The Doctor. So from Series 5 onwards, it was The Doctor.
I think the same change happened during the classic series as well,
yeah,
right?
I
I seem to remember
did.
During either Colin Baker or Peter Davison's era that it changed from Doctor Who to The Doctor.
I believe it was Davison. I did look it up, but I forgot to write it down.
Yeah, so they've definitely flip-flopped back and forth. But, I mean, fans are very adamant that it's not Doctor Who, or at least some are.
Oh, yeah. I think they're wrong. I think Doctor Who is the name of the program. And I think they're right. I think Doctor Who is the name of the program. The Doctor is the name of the Doctor.
Right, yeah. That's I would agree with that, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually quite easy to work out why he called himself the Doctor. He called himself the Doctor because he sees himself as the healer of all the problems in the universe. So he's basically saying, I'm the Doctor of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone introduced you to someone and said, oh, this person's the Doctor, you probably wouldn't say Doctor Who. You'd say, oh, Doctor of what?
That's what the show should have been called, Doctor of What.
There was they made a joke of that though. Like in the classic series, at one point the Doctor introduces himself as the Doctor, and someone goes, "Doctor what?" and the Doctor goes, "If you like."
Wow, I don't remember that.
But we start to think, oh, is he actually called Doctor Who? And Bill says, he says to Bill, she's just trying to wind you up.
Yeah, because as we all know, his real name is Sigma Theta.
I like how you say that the British way too.
I heard somewhere that Davison, and I haven't been able to find it, that Davison at one point said he was called Dactur or something.
Well, what was Susan's
as I
real
said,
name?
Well, the one from
Archeator.
From that book, that's like her name is Archeator.
I also like it when Nardole says, "Oh, I should go back to blue." I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, we get Nardole's like dark past in this episode, and it's dark.
We do, but he's also extremely funny in this one. And Missy's back to flirting. You're pointing a gun at me. Is this the emotion you humans call spanking?
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Yikes.
Just kidding.
We now know too much.
And then later on he says, "You human?" And she's just, "Don't be a bitch."
Yeah, since when can you say bitch on Doctor Who? That was
Well, the series evolves, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, since when can you flirt with yourself to the point where you are thinking about having sex with yourself?
Selfcest,
in front of the children.
That's probably related to the whole theory of genetic attraction, which is like it's a known phenomena where if you're separated from a sibling of the opposite sex at birth and you never meet each other, you are like attracted to them when you meet them, just like naturally.
Yeah, I have read that too. But I haven't read it that it happens for everybody. I've just read that it happens with a great rate.
Mm-hmm.
So Bill is brave because they're trying to find out who's human and they're trying to sort of pinpoint it. And she steps up. She says, "I'm human." And, of course, at that point, 12 comes rushing in and he makes this little throwaway line. He says, "See this mad woman, her name is not Doctor Who." And Missy just kind of goes, I just like that. It's like, oh, you can't even play along. Come on. And before Bill gets killed. Oh, no, I've stopped us all. Now we're back to that. Bill gets shot.
Yes, Bill gets shot.
There's a big gaping hole in her stomach.
Well, she gets shot off of like a trigger reflex from the blue guy because the elevator opens and they're only coming because there's a human there. And then when the door opens, he like reflexively shoots her, and she falls over. And we get flashbacks to Bill telling the doctor how this was going to be a bad idea and it was going to go wrong and everything was going to go like poorly. And the doctor's like, no, don't worry, we'll be fine.
And she's got two cool jackets this episode. Bill's clothes are cool, but these two jackets she wears this episode are amazing. The only problem, this is what made me not like Bill to start with, but once they got rid of it, I liked Bill. The awful bow that they make her wear. It is awful, and it comes back for a scene, and I'm like, no, not the awful bow. But
as someone with no fashion sense, I did not have strong feelings.
And we get flashbacks all through this episode too. So the bit where she's making chips for the girl that she likes, that she fatted. So we actually see that happening, and I like that line too. Your bacon sandwich had a mummy and a daddy. So yeah, we find out that they're putting Missy to the test.
Right.
And she failed because Bill got shot.
Well, but she didn't do that. So I'm not sure that she did fail.
She hasn't failed
and
yet.
In fact, Bill didn't get shot until 12 appeared on the scene. So maybe it's his fault.
Well, the guy who pulled the gun on them like showed up first, and it's not like Missy did anything to disarm him. The only reason why the doctor came out of the TARDIS is because he realized Missy's not going to do anything about this.
But there's really
I guess that's fine.
Nothing they can do at this point because some masked people show up and just drag Bill away.
Then the doctor's like, "Are you going to return her?" And they're like, "We won't." Hey, that was pretty good.
That was pretty good. So obviously Cybermen here, if you've ever heard the Cybermen before, this is them.
But only if you've heard the original Cybermen, because the voices changed in like every incarnation.
Okay.
Remember, we had this whole thing every time the Cybermen showed up. We were like, the voices are good, but they're not as good as the original.
No, they're not, and I'm really glad that now we get a modern interpretation of the original voices and the original costumes. Later on in this episode. Because I still, to this day, think the 10th Planet Cybermen are the best designed Cybermen. Not the best achieved design, maybe, but the best design.
They are very scary because they're a bit softer. So I think you can actually see that there's humans that bits have been taken out of them and cobbled together. That's what I would say about the Mondasian Cybermen.
Mm-hmm. I always liked the ones from Telos. That was, I think, Tomb of the Cybermen.
Yeah, it was Tomb.
I always liked those ones the best.
I quite like the ones from Davidson's era whose mouths were moving normally, but the rest of them weren't. Yeah, those ones. I quite like those ones. But again, those were the sort of first ones among the first I saw. So you do tend to get attached to the style that you saw first, I think.
That's fair.
We did have a little bit too where Bill was calling the doctor out earlier and asking him about Missy. And he's saying she's different, and she goes, different how? I don't. And he says, I don't know. And she says, yes, you do. She calls him out on it, and she says, you want her to be good. And then I love that little line from Nardole. He's having an emotion. Can I take a selfie with you? And then they have that conversation up the roof. Sorry, this is going back a bit. And he says, fairly sure I was a man back then. And Bill says, bit flexible on the whole man-woman thing. And then 12 goes into a diatribe about humans being so hung up on stereotypes. And she says, yeah, but you still call yourself Time Lords. So she calls him out again.
Yeah, and this was weird to me. Like, maybe this is just me, but I never saw Lord as like a gender-specific term. Well, maybe it is.
It is.
That's because you're male.
It's Lord and Lady, but
yeah, Time Lady, they'll say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, sorry.
But I guess, I mean, for me, in the
worries.
context of Doctor Who, I've never seen Time Lord as a gendered term. I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's because you're male, because I definitely see it as gendered.
That's fair, but they called Romana a Time Lord. That's why, like.
No, they didn't though.
Or did they call her a Time Lady?
Yeah.
But then there's no problem with the Doctor calling himself a Time Lord because he's a guy right now.
No one has a problem with the Doctor calling it, but when you refer to the entire race as a Time Lord, it's like referring to the entire human race as man. So
I guess that's fair, but Keon has etymological things to say about the word man as referring to human.
What? I do?
Sure I
don't. I do, because as far as I know, like, using the word man to refer to, like, in mankind comes from a different place than man as in male, etymologically.
I don't care. I'll tell you, I don't care. All I can tell you as a female, and it's not every female, but it is a lot of us, it's very grating to hear somebody representing all of humanity saying this is one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Yeah,
that statement does not include me.
I understand that.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And even just the word woman, like, that's hard baked into the language. That's a diminutive form of man.
Yeah.
Like, that's where that word...
Yeah, it's an extra. It's an extra bit. It's got an extra bit tacked on it. But yeah, I don't want to go on about this too much because we're here to talk about Doctor Who.
Well, I wanted to mention actually one line in this scene where the Doctor goes, she was my man crush, talking about Missy, and I just imagine shippers just going crazy at this line. Just the fanfiction.net community just going insane.
Yeah, there's a lot of slash after that. Also, they're eating on screen here. They're eating chips, I think, that Bill's made below. I don't know why they're eating them with forks. But apparently, as an actor, if you ever start eating on screen, you get absolutely full by the end of the day because they keep taking takes, and you've got to keep eating, otherwise you lose the continuity.
Right.
So they were probably completely full of chips by the end of the day.
Yeah, that's why I hear people who do, like, ads for food will spit out the food after each take so that they don't, like, continually eat because you just get stuffed.
And Bill says, thanks, mate, in this. So I just wanted to point out to people, they always associate the word with mate with Australians, but it's actually a British word. We just use it a lot. But we don't call people mate. We don't say, g'day, mate. No one ever says that. It's more like, mate, what are you doing? Or, oh, no, mate, that's not right. Or, yeah, good one, mate.
That's how I use it. I'm not Australian. Thanks, mate.
Well, you're getting more of our words now. Like, no worries is Australian.
Oh, really?
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, everyone says it now. Oh, I do like that. The guy gets called a Smurf too.
Well, in regards to the blue person sorry, going back to what you just said, I wanted to say that it was nice of them to bring that back because we saw them earlier this season in Oxygen, and at first it seemed like they were just going to be a throwaway introduction. And of course, we've seen the blue people before, like Dorium Maldavar was blue, but it's nice of them to reuse species that aren't major villains or protagonists, like in tertiary roles.
Well, there was another guy too with a blue head that got locked in a safe at one point.
Yeah, that was Dorium.
Oh, that was okay. Sorry, it's been a while since I've watched some of those earlier
Yeah, no, we
episodes.
have the advantage of having like just watched this year, so I like don't blame you for not remembering his name because it's dumb and it's a dumb name in my opinion. But anyway,
and yeah, we've got the whole "wait for me" thing,
Right.
and the Sonic umbrella never gets old. I'm afraid.
have we seen it before this episode?
I thought we had.
I don't remember it.
I don't remember seeing it before this episode.
You know what's funny though? If you rewatch this scene and pretend that it really isn't a Sonic, and that Missy knows that, she's basically just copying what everyone else says, what everyone else does, without actually being able to do it. So when the Doctor points his Sonic at the elevator, if you pretend that she just thinks she has an umbrella, she's just pointing her umbrella there to kind of be one of the gang. And then when she points it at the other guy's head, she full well knows that it can't do anything, but she's pretending that it can to threaten him.
I think when they pointed at the elevator in the second episode, though, and that Cyberman comes out that they blow up, that we do see a beam of some energy coming out of her umbrella, so...
Oh, we do. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying if you rewatch the scene and pretend that, it looks hilarious.
Yeah. There's no indication, like in this scene, that it's functional or whatever. So, yeah.
And then we go into the future, and Bill's alive. Yay!
But not unscathed. She has been outfitted with,
and also the Doctor's hinting that something's not quite right too.
Right, he's like astral, like projecting himself into the other end of the ship or something, or she's having visions.
I think it's her, the subconscious message that the Doctor implanted in her when she was in the elevator.
Yeah,
definitely. At the bit where he says, "Wait for me."
Yeah, so she's she was just going to say she's not having a very good time. She's wandering around this decrepit old hospital.
Well, just before then, we get to see this thing that says 365035. So if you divide that by 365 days, you get almost exactly 1,000. If you extrapolate out from that, you go, okay, down the bottom is 1,000 years to the 2 days that are up the top.
Right, yeah.
Sorry, it would probably be 2 years up the top, because remember there were another group of people up the top that have gone down the bottom. So yeah, 2 years up the top as compared with 1,000 years down the bottom.
Right, so sort of the first indication that something is out of whack here.
I think it's 2 days at the top, because the blue guy says they only launched like 2 days before, that it's only been 2 days.
Oh, okay, so it must be two days. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because one bit of sort of critical information that the blue guy, I guess, dispenses is that they sent like a repair party down to the other end of the ship, which is 400 miles.
Yep. And they never came back. But the other thing he says is that all signs of human life disappeared.
Yeah, and then Nardole sort of switches on a life sign reader, and there's just millions.
He's like, we haven't picked up any colonists, though, and the Doctor's like, all right, let me break this down for you.
Yeah. It's a nice reveal, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a Stephen Moffat episode without some time shenanigans.
I mean, this is true, though. As a physicist, I appreciated this when I watched it, because I was like, oh, I understand this. This is an actual thing. Gravity actually does slow down time, so we are actually moving slower in the presence of Earth's gravity than we would be than, like, Voyager 2, I guess, is right now. And the closer you get to a singularity like a black hole, time eventually just stops for you. And that's like the core premise that the movie Interstellar is also based on.
I was going to mention Interstellar.
So how do you prove that? Just through mathematical models?
You can prove it by there's a principle that says if you're in an elevator, right, and you drop a ball and it you can see that the ball falls towards the floor of the elevator at 9.8 meters per second, or 10 if you're approximating. Let's say the elevator has no windows. There's a physical principle that says, and there's no way to disprove this, that there's no experiment that you can do that can prove that, because the two options here are either that you're in the elevator and the elevator is moving upwards at 9.8 meters per second, so when you drop the ball, the elevator moves up to meet the ball, or the ball falls due to gravity. But if there's no windows and the only information you have is inside this box that is the elevator, you cannot prove that either of those two cases is true. It could be
What
either.
about if you put video cameras in?
Well, that gives you access to information outside the elevator, outside the system, so that would break the principle. But
Gotcha.
because of that, you can basically show that therefore light has to be affected by gravity, because if it was just the elevator moving upwards, the light would obviously have to not move, and then it would hit the bottom of the elevator, so therefore light is affected by gravity, and then from that you can show that time is slowed down by gravity.
It's interesting, isn't it?
It's pretty fascinating. This is what Einstein was working on. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I know they learned a lot about gravity by dropping things out of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, which I think is just delicious. What are we going to do with this stupid tower that's leaning now? Oh, let's start dropping things off
Yeah,
it.
just drop
Awesome.
things.
They have to. I went to see that in 1999. They have to hold it up with cables, unfortunately,
Oh, really?
Yikes.
Wow.
because it really is leaning.
Well, that's a lesson in building good foundations, or like checking the ground you're building your building on before you build it.
Like Mexico City.
We talked about this earlier. I didn't recognize the actor when this bloke started interacting with Bill. I didn't know who it was. I didn't look at any previews. So I don't know if people didn't look at previews, I don't know if they would have picked who this was.
No, I have a question, because I didn't watch any previews or next time trailers either. Did they actually spoil the him taking the mask off in the preview? Oh.
In the one at the end of Eaters of Light. No, at the one, I think the one at the beginning of this season shows him take the mask off. The one at the end of Eaters of Light is when he goes, "Give me a kiss."
Well, that's
If I
just,
remember correctly. I didn't actually this season. I didn't watch the preview at the end of the first episode, so unfortunately my memory is 2 years old on that one.
It was widely advertised that Jeremy Sims was coming back. And it was very much hyped because it was the first ever story that had two masters in it.
Well, I remember that the only reason they even announced he was back was because it leaked, because someone leaked a set picture where he was on set, and they were like, "Damn, I guess we have to announce it now."
Ah, right.
but like
It's
from
a shame.
I can actually see that being good from a marketing perspective, because you can say like, yes, he's going to be in this season, but you don't know which episode. You're going to have to watch them all. But yeah, from a storytelling perspective, maybe not the best thing in the world to have that revealed early on.
I thought it wasn't revealed, though, until just before this episode. I'm not sure it was revealed right at the start of the season.
It was.
Oh, was? Okay.
At the end of the first episode, instead of playing a trailer just for the next episode, so that would be Thin Ice, I guess, right? Or Smile,
Yeah,
actually.
Smile.
They played a trailer for the entire season, and the very last shot of that trailer is John Sim.
Oh, right. Well, they did that at the end of Jodie's first thing too, and I found it a bit odd. I mean, it was exciting because you saw actors that you thought, oh, I'd love to see what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. But hubby and I went, well, that was a bit strange. Why not just show us rather than tell us?
Yeah.
There's lots of hints about what's about to happen with Bill here. So if you've paid attention to things in the Hugh universe, you will have known stuff. So this conversion theatre thing, I won't say much about it, but if you watched Torchwood, that would send some things into your mind where you think, oh, is this going to be this type of thing?
Right.
And we did talk about the voice of Cyberman being quite good. This is Nicholas Briggs. Nicholas Briggs has had such a long association with Doctor Who. He does all the Dalek voices of this modern era. And when he was doing the Cyberman voice here, I went, oh, that sounds like Nicholas Briggs. And, of course, it was. But he has also done a lot with Big Finish, and he'll do everything for them. He'll write, direct, and actually voice act. But he also did this series, which he wrote and appeared in, and it was called The Stranger. Now, Doctor Who had a long break after the first series of Colin Baker. It wasn't very popular, and the head of the BBC hated it. He wanted to kill it off. So you had some actors that were out of work. And what they decided to do was they weren't allowed to write a series featuring the Doctor, so they wrote a series featuring the Stranger. And instead of having Perry, they had the companion Miss Brown, or assistant they were then. And so, yeah, you can actually go and look at it. I've seen some of them, not all of them. Louise Jamison's in some, and Sophie Aldred is in some, but not as Ace, because obviously she hadn't appeared as Ace then. But they're pretty ordinary. They're worth seeing just from an interest point of view. The other thing that came out around that time was a thing called the Air Zone Solution, which I enjoyed on first watching, but I watched again with hubby and he said that was pretty ordinary, and I went, yeah, you're probably right. But Air Zone's interesting because it's got Pertwee, it's got Davison, it's got Baker. I thought I had someone else. Might have had Troughton, might have been the fourth one. I know it wasn't Tom Baker. So, yeah, it's interesting, these little fan things that run alongside the official series. I would say go and look at the Air Zone Solution once. I'd say think about whether you want to look at The Stranger, because they're I don't know if they're worth the time.
Well, in our endeavor to watch everything Doctor Who and Doctor Who related, these things are eventually going to be in the lineup for us.
I mean, it'd be interesting to talk about, because you might see, it might actually be interesting to hear what people think about them who've seen them for the first time. And maybe I shouldn't have said what I thought about them, just let you experience them. But, forewarned is forearmed, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got lots of hints too here. We've got in, and we've a room saying in with people lying in bed, and then we've got out. And this is, I think, you start to really go, oh, these are going to be Cybermen. And I like this thing they do with this, one of them going pain, pain, pain. This is an idea that's been used from way back in time in movies and music videos. Metallica did a music video for their song One, and it used a lot of footage from a film called Johnny Got His Gun, and it's got a person in hospital who he has no arms or legs, he has no sight, vision, or ability to talk. Sight, hearing, and can't talk. And he starts nodding his head, and some children go, what is he doing? And they eventually figure out that he's in Morse code spelling out kill me, kill me, kill me over and over again. So this scene in the hospital very much reminded me of that. I think it's become a trope now, but it was the first time I ever saw one, I went, oh, wow, that's really quite sickening.
Yeah, it's really dark.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is sickening too. To me, there's a lot of horror in this episode. When most people hear horror these days, they think blood and guts. But I actually think there's a lot of psychological horror. And I think in this couple of episodes in particular. So in this particular case, Bill goes up and tries to find out what the lady touched on the top of the what we assume is some kind of fluid going to their veins. And she hears that he's still in pain. They've just turned down his screams of pain.
Yeah, that was.
In fact, she does it too.
Yeah, that was the sort of, to me as well, the bigger horror moment is when you find out they just turned his volume down.
Yeah, and then when she turns up another one, it actually does say "kill me." So again, that flashes back to that one music video from Metallica. But it's interesting, isn't it, that even Bill sort of, I think she says "sorry, mate" at one of these points too. She can't hear it. She can't put up with it. She can't let them say it because it's just so terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
But we're introduced to Mr. Razor and also a nurse. I don't know if she's named.
Not as far as I could tell.
But Mr. Razor is a little suspicious. He helps out Bill, and they sort of go to his secret workshop or whatever, which turns out to just be his room.
Yeah, he's fun though. He's sympathetic and fun. particularly about the tea.
Yeah.
He says to her something about, this will prepare you for the horror to come, which I find an interesting line. And later on we know what he means. But she says, what horror? And he says, oh, mainly the tea. And I felt like going, nah, there's going to be a lot more horror than the tea.
So I guess if you had watched religiously, you would know that this is the master since they spoil the unveiling of it.
Yeah.
Given his propensity for disguises, Khalid,
Khalid, never let him live it down.
When I was looking back on this later, I wondered how long this, how they do stings and they say it's a long sting, so we've got to stay in character for a long time. I thought, was this just an elaborate hoax? But then they explain later that his TARDIS got stuck at the edge of the black hole, so he sort of
years.
Yeah. Great lines about that later, but yeah. When they're watching the telly and they're watching what's happening in the floor right at the top, at the start, he's not really enjoying it. But then later him and Bill sort of sit down with cups of horrible tea and watch it together, and he's really enjoying it. And later on, you kind of think, he's come around because she's talking about the Doctor and the Doctor's interesting and that kind of thing. But then you find out later he's actually enjoying watching the Doctor because he knows how much he'll be hurting him in a moment.
Yep. And right when the Doctor makes it to the elevator, Razor's like, all right, I'll show you where the elevator comes out. Turns out to be all part of his master plan.
Right. And
yes. A master plan.
Wow. And I really like how all of this is done, because this is where we get the Doctor explaining the black hole and the time discrepancy.
Yeah, it's called time dilation.
Yeah.
It's the physical term for it.
I thought this back and forth was really clever, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, going from them watching them to them
you do have to wonder
stuff.
how Razor got all these sick camera angles from the bridge, though.
Well, we zoom into the screen, and then that's when you're in that.
But
scene
then we
with the
zoom
Doctor.
out of the screen also sometimes, and in shots that would that's a pretty sick camera angle you got there, Razor.
Well, they do mention that at one point. They say how all the cameras have been changed right early on in the episode. I don't remember whether it's Nardole or the Doctor, but they say, the cameras have been re-angled.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. And
all the screens had been re-angled as well for a single pilot.
Because he wouldn't have been able to do that. It would take you, it'd about take you 1,000 years to get up. Although he's a Time Lord, so, he could have popped up there 1,000 years ago.
The Doctor actually makes the excuse in this episode that he can't use the TARDIS because of the proximity to the black hole. But so you have to wonder, is that just, an excuse on his part, or is it...
Oh no, it's definitely not, because that's how the Master blew his TARDIS out. That's explicitly they mentioned, he blew his TARDIS out because he was so close to the black hole and he couldn't pilot it right.
Sure. I mean, the Doctor doesn't know that.
Sorry,
at that point.
sorry, fellas, you're both wrong. It's because, as I explained earlier, the TARDIS always works except when it doesn't.
Oh, right.
Right.
How could we have forgotten? But this is...
I think I've mentioned... Sorry, go.
Yeah, no, I just kind of wanted to talk about how, this is that classic show thing of, the TARDIS is out of commission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For a better reason than what you'd usually get in the classic show, which was just there's a force field around it or something.
Yeah, and also in the classic show, they didn't make up really a lot of excuses why they couldn't use the TARDIS. It was always, well, we've come here, people need help, we're going to help them. And no one ever really said, well, why don't we just use the TARDIS to help them? It just didn't even come into it. Not sure why, but... they did use the TARDIS from time to time, though, to help people in the early series. Like Perry, for example, was hauled into the TARDIS quite smartly by that fellow.
But contrast that to Dodo, who just ran into the TARDIS out of completely nowhere.
Yeah, well, true. Just want to talk a little bit about Pearl Mackie at this point. Up until this time, she was mostly a theatre actor. She'd done a bit of radio work and things like that. And the only TV show she'd done before this was called Doctors.
Yes, that show that almost every British actor has been into.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think she's terrific. I think she's absolutely magnificent as a companion. Now one of my favourites. As soon as they got rid of the bow.
Again, as someone with no fashion sense, that was not my primary concern.
Yeah, I think she had a lot of heart as a character. I liked that we had someone who was gay. I thought that was really good really refreshing to have someone who had a different characteristic than what we've been used to before. And they didn't overdo it, I felt. It was just part of who she was. They didn't sort of, make any story completely focused around her being gay. But they also didn't gloss over it either.
I do feel it was kind of somewhat part of an arc for her, and I just want to talk about this now because I'll forget if I don't. Because at the end of this, or at the end of The Doctor Falls, near the end, she asks the doctor, like, like I'm interested in women, right? And he's like, yeah, of course. And she's like, okay. So I feel like, he was maybe one of the first people who saw that was the case with her. Her stepmom obviously did not know. So I feel maybe she feels closer to the doctor than, maybe her stepmom or other people who didn't know the real her type thing.
See, I took that line a completely different way. I took it, she looked at him, she says, you know that I'm, all about women and people who are more my age. And because she doesn't just say about women, you see. And I think the setup is that we think she's going to go, but with you, I felt a lot for you. But she doesn't, and I just took it as a sick burn.
That's probably a better reading of it, because she does, mention the people my age.
But people can have more than one reading of things, and it doesn't shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing time difference again, because apparently we haven't done enough of it in Who. And because Rory and Amy did it at least 4 times. So they did it in the TARDIS and the Doctor's Wife. They did it in Cold Blood, where Rory gets separated from them. They did it in The Girl Who Waited. And they did it in Angels in Manhattan. It's like, Moffat, can you not think of some other kind of story?
No.
No.
That's why never mind.
We get our Nurse Ratched type with the nurse.
Yeah, I was gonna mention. I definitely got that vibe.
So if people don't know what that is, look up One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which you might be interested to know is one of these situations where the book and the film are equally as good as each other.
This is a conversation I cannot contribute because I have neither read the book nor seen the film.
You didn't like the book?
No, I love the book. I think the movie is doing... I like the movie. I just think it's doing slightly different things than the book.
I think that's why I don't have a problem with it, though, because they're different mediums.
Yeah, sure. That makes sense.
I do notice from time to time in Doctor Who that some of the subtle things they say about women are very stereotypical. So this is a fat woman, so she's either got to be saccharine sweet or nasty. So this time she's nasty.
She wasn't... I thought she was going to be a much more prevalent character than she actually ended up being, to be honest.
Yeah, same.
She was more just backdrop, weirdly enough.
I think she was really only in that one scene to come in and turn down what he was saying.
Well, she also came in, she also chastises Razor for keeping Bill out of the main hospital ward, and then I don't think we actually see her again until Bill's operation. I think she's in the background.
Yeah. Yeah, but I definitely like that you point that out, because there's some, as Dylan and I were actually kind of discussing this based on a post we read online right before we started recording of Doctor Who, despite being, I guess I'll just say this, despite being seen as somewhat of a quote unquote progressive show, often deals with topics in a way that isn't necessarily, and I'm using progressive in a weird way, but isn't necessarily progressive, which is fine, I guess. But it's just odd to me that Doctor Who is seen as so anti-colonial, for example, when I'm sitting here watching these episodes and I'm like, really? Really? That's just one example, and this might be another one.
What does colonial mean? I'm not sure in that context.
Actually, I'll just reference this post. I think it was on Reddit, right?
Yeah, it was. Do you want to see the post again?
No, I think it was just someone talking about how the Doctor, comes into situations, takes charge, and it's often from like a place of I know more about you than you know about yourself type thing.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah.
Of course, there's been a lot of accusations thrown around, particularly the latest series, that it's pandering too much to political correctness, whatever the hell that means. But yeah, it's a weird situation, isn't it? That they'll feature a gay character, and then people will say, "Oh, you're only featuring a gay character to pander to people. Why, you wouldn't do it otherwise." And it's like, yeah, but isn't that the whole point? The whole point is that we are now going to feature gay characters because you don't want us to feature gay characters, and we're trying to break that down a bit. So to the point where you won't even notice eventually that we have gay characters.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's happened with characters of colour. I think now, when Bill came along, it didn't really stick out because we'd had Martha.
Right.
But I think when I first saw Martha, I went, "Oh wow, that's cool." Someone who's not white. That's really interesting. I mean, not that it means they're going to act any differently, but it's just nice to see different people on the screen.
Yeah, representation kind of thing.
Yeah. But I think it's more than that too. I think it's just saying, well, sorry, the universe is expanding and not everybody's white now, so we've got to actually reflect that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm using representation in the term that saying that Doctor Who represents a more accurate view of the world, because not everybody in the world is white. In fact, I think white is not even cracking like 50% of the Earth. So it is weird that like in the Doctor Who universe, everybody's white. Right?
Yeah. There were also there's a nice time in Capaldi's era too where we had the deaf actor.
Yes.
In the episode, and I thought that was great. And they got a lot of praise for actually casting a deaf actor in that story. And she did a great job, which was really cool too. I think if she hadn't have done a great job, people might have gone, but no, she was awesome. And they will do that again in future. I'm not going to say anything else other than that. You can look out for it. It will happen again.
I will say I've seen a lot of flack. Since we're on the topic, I've seen people giving the newest season a lot of flack for having explicitly like political situations, like in Rosa, or I think there were a few other examples as well. I don't know too much about it, but because I haven't watched the season.
Oh no, we couldn't talk about anything political.
Well, I mean, I've seen the argument that like Doctor Who obviously has always, had some sort of, I mean, you can always read the stories politically or, socially or whatever, but like putting, the characters in these actual historical situations was not for the best. But again, I haven't watched the season, so I'm not going to comment there. I've just seen that argument.
Okay, people, get your hate mail pens ready.
Oh boy.
There was a nice line delivered by Capaldi here in Bill's memory. Wait for me. Gee, he's a good actor.
Yeah, he is. Definitely, I think, the best actor to take on the mantle. Just going to say it.
I could see that. Eccleston was very good too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that any of the other actors are bad. I'm just saying I think Peter Capaldi's the best.
No, I'm going to let you finish.
So far.
But Peter Capaldi had the best interpretation of the Doctor of 2009 or whatever that stupid meme came out.
Well, he's got all the experience under his belt, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So you'd hope to see it. Well, they mentioned this thing about floor 507, that they sent people up to floor 507 and they never came back.
Mm-hmm. Because it's the biggest solar farm on the ship.
Well, we find that out later, but yeah. Oh, no, did they say it was the biggest solar farm?
Yeah, they say it when Razor's giving Bill kind of we're dying, and this is what we tried to do to stop dying, was we tried to invade the biggest solar farm on the ship, and no one came back.
Dun, dun, dun.
So now they have Operation Exodus in place.
Yes. Now that will ring bells in people's mind, because we had Genesis of the Daleks. Oh, I've forgotten the second one. Was it Exodus of the Daleks?
Revelation, I think, was after
Revelation.
Genesis.
I thought there was one in the middle.
No, I think those were the 2 consecutive appearances of Davros, weren't they? Or
Davos appeared in every story after Genesis.
yeah,
Every
so
Dalek
that,
story.
yeah, so that was the next one, wasn't it?
There was a 6. There was a 6 one. Let me just Google
Yeah.
quickly.
Well, Genesis was
Revelation-
4.
Genesis-
Revelation was
4,
5, I
4,
think.
4.
A 4
Yeah,
as well?
4. It was 4 and Romana, 2.
You're right. That's the one I had
look
that
up-
dream about.
God.
Forgot to mention I had a dream about Star Cops this week. That's how you know a show is made in my mind, is if I dream about it.
Or it's
Okay,
so
so
bad that it
Baker
haunts
is
your dreams.
Revelation.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see what it says for Fifth Doctor, Resurrection of the Daleks. Is that right?
Wasn't there a biblical one for 7?
Oh, hang on, but this says only in the Doctor Who magazine. Biblical for 7, let's see. I mean, how do you go after...
Yeah, where do you go after Revelation?
I don't know. So what have we got? 7th Doctor. I mean, I'm just doing very, very quick Google searches. Remembrance of the
Oh,
Oh,
Daleks.
that's
the
it.
Remembrance.
So they went away from the biblical stuff a little bit. But now we're back. Exodus.
Right.
He's like dropping clues all the time, hoping... It's like that little kid in class who'll keep just doing annoying shit like flicking rubbers at you or erasers, I think you say in the US. I reckon that's what the Mars is like. He's like, well, see, I did this thing. And it's like, I called it the Exodus. Did you see what I did there? Wink, wink. And the Doctor's like, oh, yeah, whatever.
He comes back with the Genesis thing later, too. He's really proud of that.
He's like,
Oh, yes.
I might even call
I
it the
love that.
Genesis. And the Doctor's like, please don't say it. Like, don't. And he's like, of the Cybermen.
Yeah. That was awesome.
But we find out, actually, that Bill has been waiting for 10 years,
Yes.
which is insane, because she looks not a single day older.
It's insane given she only knew the Doctor for probably a year as well.
Yeah, at
Which
least
means
a
she's
year.
now officially waited longer than she knew the Doctor in the first place.
Right.
She's the girl who waited.
Yeah.
Oh, we've already had that.
Moffat.
I can actually see the, like, loneliness and, like, the maybe not loneliness, but, like, the, how much of a bleak situation this is. Like, this is more, this gets to me more than, like, what happened with Amy type thing.
Interesting. Do you think it's the actor?
It might be, yeah. Possibly.
Because Phil Mackey's very subtle, but well, most of the time. Sometimes I find her a little unsubtle, but in this she does a sterling job. Everybody does a good job in this, I feel. We get the Venusian Aikido.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Because it's been all of 2 minutes on the first floor.
Yeah.
Yes. But I love the Venusian Aikido. People probably know that goes back to John Pertwee.
Mm-hmm.
And keep it in mind. That's all I'm going to say. Keep it in mind.
Okay. I'm sure Dylan knows what you're referring to.
Perhaps. Mayhap. Where are we in this story?
We're
I'm
We see a
lost.
thing. Bill goes outside. He takes her outside. And then while they're doing that, we see a thing in the window that is, a Cyberman. Everyone must know that by now. But the most interesting thing is that he has a heart that looks like the heart that Bill's got. So that's sort of another bit of foreshadowing.
right. The Doctor and co. Get into the elevator at this point and go down all the way.
And there's music. Now, do you know what elevator music is?
Yeah. Yeah.
I do like this line from it's Razor, is it? I never paid attention to his name. I like it when he says, I have burglary skills. They don't just let everyone wear a mask like this, Oh, that was hilarious.
Then he mentions his, like, skeleton key or whatever, but it's actually just, like, has his name
He's
on
like, I stole this key, and Bill's like, it's got your name on it. He's like, oh, yeah.
And now we see we go into full horror because we see the Mondasian Cybermen.
Right.
And then we go into full upgrade for Bill. And I don't know if she mentions pain or they do, and they say, oh, we've got something for that now. This won't stop you feeling pain. It will make you stop caring about it. It fits over your head. And now we realise the enormity of what is about to happen.
And then right at that moment, the elevator dings open and the Doctor and co step out and they're like, all right, let's find out what's going on. Missy, find out where they're from. Nardole, you with me. Let's find Bill.
Yeah.
But then Razor mysteriously shows up and seems to know Missy.
Yes.
Missy's like, get away from me, or I'm going to have to kill you, and then everyone's going to be sad.
Yeah. Really trying not to kill anyone today. And again, Michelle Gomez delivers brilliantly. Every line in this, she's fantastic.
Oh, yeah, she's
To
great.
me, she's almost a standout in this because of the character arc and her comedic timing is beautiful. That you know that she's from comedy. So similar to Catherine Tate.
Yeah.
Catherine Tate had a sketch show, which she was most known for before Doctor Who. And Michelle Gomez was in a couple of very high-profile sitcoms, not so much here, but in the US, in the UK, she was well known. But you can also, and I find this fascinating, you go to YouTube and you search for Michelle Gomez stand-up. It actually has her doing some stand-up.
Huh.
And I would recommend it. It's terrific. I'm not going to spoil any lines from it. Just go and look it up.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting after having seen her as
Missy.
But I mean, Missy is just. You can actually see she's a comedic actor by how well she does the funny bits. I mean, I like the line here. Evil and brilliant are the same thing, and Nardole's going no, and she goes little bit.
Well,
I want to know how the Master worked out who she was. How did he work that out?
Because Time Lords can detect other Time Lords when they need to. It's just like how the TARDIS works when it needs to.
Okay. That fascinated me, that obviously he thought he was looking at the Doctor and two other people, but somehow he worked out that one of those other people was him.
He had
Probably just feel it or
10
something.
years to figure it out, so...
Maybe there was some body language there.
Who knows?
Nardole has a great line too here where he says to the Doctor, there's always a scary thing with you. Missy should know cyber people though, because remember she wanted to give 12 a whole army of them. So it shouldn't take her as long to work out what's going on as this actually does.
Well, I think she's surprised that they're Mondasian Cybermen, more so than that they're just Cybermen. So she pulls up Mondas on the monitor and she goes, whoa.
Right. And then the Master
And
reveals
I
himself.
didn't get this. Yeah, I didn't get this bit until right last minute. I think I get a bit too immersed in things, so I don't notice all the little hints. He's saying to her, but you did kill his friend and you've never been self-destructive. So, yeah, did you figure out it was him straight away?
No. I mean, I had it spoiled for me, so I don't know.
I mean, it was this scene where I was like, okay, it's the Master in some other incarnation before he pulls off the mask, and then
It's Roger Delgado.
Well, he is. He's rocking the Delgado beard.
He is, and he mentions it later too.
He brought it back, bringing it back.
We've got this another horrific scene. They ask, "Where's Bill Potts?" And the Cyberman does a little search and then says, "I am Bill Potts." I was so devastated at that. I was like, "No, don't kill Bill. Oh, kill Bill."
It's like the 7th time we've done that.
Yeah, I cannot believe that they actually went ahead with the cyberization. Like, I can't believe that they did this to a companion.
It's just Moffat doing his Moffat thing, though. The companion has some, quote, irreparable something done to them, unquote, and then it's just undone immediately.
This was more worthy than I think you're making it out to be, though. Like, I loved this. I loved how it was all done.
They killed Clara, and they brought her back 2 episodes later. They did it with Amy,
Yeah, I
too.
didn't like that. Yeah, I particularly got annoyed about the Clara thing. Let the companion make that sacrifice and leave it. Otherwise, you cheapen it. Mm-hmm. To me, anyway.
I do think this is Moffat's best instance of this. I do think it's his best moment, but it is cheapened to me by the fact that he's done it before.
But
it's cheapened to me by what happens later.
But what's not cheapened here is the revenue potential for spin-offs and other material featuring these companions. You have to remember.
The other way this has been done before is with Danny Pink.
Oh, Danny Pink.
Because Danny got cyberized too, and nobody's out here talking about how great that moment was.
It's because we all hate Danny Pink and all love Bill.
Oh, poor Danny.
No one's out here talking about how great it was that the Brigadier got cyberized too.
That's
that
right.
happened in that episode too.
Yes. Yeah, they were sort of really, really small subplots. Well, I suppose Danny wasn't, but yeah, I don't know. I like the idea of Danny. I just don't think there was enough chemistry between the actors. That's what I think. And I think that there's a problem here later with that too, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. So we've got the whole I am Bill Potts, and then I waited. And then we find out Genesis of the Cybermen, which if people don't know what we're talking about with that, there was a very famous story called Genesis of the Daleks in Tom Baker's time, which a lot of people think is the best story. I personally do. Even if it's not the best, it's got a lot of resonance with a lot of us because it was the first time that Davros was introduced in the series. So, if you're a Who watcher from the first series, this really strikes a chord with you.
Right.
And then we get Bill finishing off not just I waited, but I waited for you, and there's the sting. We close up on Bill's eye, and the last time we did that, she was alive. There was actually a massive close-up on her eye before she got cyberized. And in this instance, we've got full horror because we know they turned her into a Cyberman, and we know from previous Who that that's a really painful process. But this time we also know that she's constantly in pain, and finally she was betrayed by the person she trusted the most, and we get our first Cyberman crying. So she still feels emotion. So how much of that other stuff can she still feel?
Well, here's the question: is she actually crying? Because that's the whole thing about the second episode. Is the Doctor's like, you shouldn't be able to cry, and then I don't want to spoil this, but when Heather shows up, she says she found Bill because she left her tears on Bill. And I think the whole thing is supposed to be that those tears are Heather's.
I think that's too meta. I think what Heather's saying is that every time she cries, every time Bill cries, in other words, that she knows she's crying. So I think it's pretty clear later because 12 says where there's tears, there's hope. So they are real tears. They're not.
See, I took that line to mean that he knew that it was Heather's tears and that she would save Bill no matter what. That's how I took that line.
I guess one of these things, again, different interpretations. Let's fight about it to the death. No, that's not.
Well, I just like the second episode begins with another cold open where we see a farm and
it's like a parochial paradise. Like nothing's wrong here. It's just all sunshine and
save for all the crucified Cybermen.
Yeah. They're just scarecrows, man. Like
yes, for all those crows living in this artificial farm.
You mean all the quantum shades?
This has got different layers of horror, don't you feel? Because we know that these things are in that situation where they're constantly feeling pain.
Mm-hmm.
So when they escape at night, they might just be wanting help.
But then they get gunned down.
Yeah, they get gunned down and chained up again. So it's quite horrific. I actually put myself in their shoes during this.
Yeah, and added to that is the idea that the people living there have no idea what is really going on.
Yeah.
Which just makes it even worse, I think.
Yeah, they're actually contributing to torturing their own kind.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that these are the people from earlier because of what Razor said. They went to floor 507 and never came back. And conveniently, it's written on the top of the world. And then you've got another time paradox.
Yeah, well, we see a Cyberman carry the Doctor out of a spaceship kind of crashes through the floor and it crashes, and then we see Cyberman carry the Doctor out and then smash cut into opening title sequence. So that's another cold open. It's like, oh, what's gonna happen? How does this? How do we get here from where we were?
And do you think it's easier though this time to figure it out because we know that time moves so differently?
Yeah.
I got the feeling that it was.
Well, my favorite moment of this, because when we cut to the Doctor, he says some stuff, and this is Stephen Moffat hidden running Doctor Who for sure, because he mentions here all the he specifically calls it parallel development, I think. He's like, the Cybermen don't have just one origin, it's a parallel development across multiple cultures and species, and he's like, and then he lists the places where he's seen it happen. He says Earth, Mondaz, Telos. It's like, okay, I'm following. Planet 14, okay, that's obscure. Marinus. So he's Stephen Moffat here is doing a very subtle thing where he's subtly canonizing the World Shapers comic that makes the Void into the Cybermen.
Yep.
They do it again too because when the Master and Missy are saying, how many ways have you died? They start echoing all the old series. And interestingly, the Master was in some of those episodes from the early series. But one of the things they mention is a couple of ways that he died in Heaven Sent, which I think is a Talale in-joke.
Yeah. I specifically noticed them mentioning him falling, and I was like, throwback to him falling off the telescope in Legopolis and then just dying.
Yes, that's exactly what I thought too. And the Master was there in that one. So, yeah.
Well, now that our God and Emperor Stephen Moffat has said, has included it in the show, it's, forever canonized, so no going back.
Yeah, just like that whole half-human thing that everybody selectively ignores.
But yeah, we get Naldal running away, which is confusing. Why is he running away? He's never been afraid in the past.
Nardal's characterization in this did seem to be, I don't know, just a little off. Because we get the whole, he is a computer expert, which, where did that come from? I don't remember that ever being the case. And there are a few other things as well.
I think he's just very much Mr. Exposition in this because you've got to have somebody. And I think that's the problem here. He's just being used for exposition to move the story along faster. The bit later where he takes the gun and does stuff, it's clearly just saying, this is what we're going to do, so later when we do it, you'll know why it's happening. We do get a great line from, which we've hinted at a few times, where Sim's Master says, I went old school, and then he strokes his goatee. So definite throwback to Robert Delgado and also Anthony as well. Throwback to both.
He said, yeah, but in a way, Anthony was doing it because it was so popular on Delgado, right? So...
yeah, basically. And also, so you weren't confused that they weren't the same person.
Great.
We were much dumber in the 80s. We needed extra helping hand.
And let's not forget Jeffrey Beavers. His one turn as the Master.
Yeah, where's Jeffrey Beavers with the goatee?
He's the Timothy Dalton of Doctor Who. Oh, you don't know who Timothy Dalton is?
No, I do, but I feel like George Lazenby would almost be a more apt reference for that.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
I don't know.
So we get more
okay.
bad American accents here, I think. Michelle Gomez keeps dropping in and out of them all the time. I do love that Missy is putting lip gloss on while the Doctor and the Master are talking. It's just fantastic, Bit of why does it even happen?
Why not?
It's just so Missy. It's like they're having this very serious conversation. Oh, I may as well take this moment to brush up on my lip gloss.
Well, this is all taking place on what seems to be the roof from The Return of Dr. Mysterio.
Yes. And Angels Take Manhattan.
Yeah.
It's all the same roof.
Yeah.
Canon.
There's only one roof in BBC. You've heard that old joke, the BBC, where we have 8 actors and 1 umbrella.
Rings very true.
Because things so recycled. Okay, so we get the disguise explained here because he was once Prime Minister of Britain.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, also
delicious...
there's some indication, the Doctor seems to indicate that he conquered this group of people as well.
Yes.
Doing something similar to that whole Prime Minister thing, and now he's the same thing happened and he got kicked out, and now he's going to hide. I
do like this lovely line too from 12. Like Donald Trump, some things are just inevitable.
Yeah.
So interesting timing given that the impeachment hearings are going on at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Those are
I also
spicy.
liked, he also says to them at one point, read the comments. I think that's a sly nod to the audience.
I think so, yes.
And then now I'm not quite sure what language I can use on this show. How
I'll
high
just
is
bleep
your?
it out.
Okay.
It's bad.
So Doctor Who, the Missy and the Master on the roof, all smug, da 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 da, and then he says to them, "I changed the algorithm, and they're coming for us, and don't they shit themselves?"
Yeah, they.
I just think that's
He expanded the definition of what it means to be human. So now there's 2 hearts instead of 1.
ruh-roh.
Uh-oh, Raggy.
We get the cyber umbrella again, which is now my favourite thing.
Yeah, now she actually, uses it. So this is when you go like, okay, it is, it's functional as a sonic, whatever.
Device. Although, wasn't the master screwdriver a laser screwdriver? So maybe this is a laser umbrella.
Maybe it's something.
Well, we did have a sonic trowel at one point.
We did. The master actually has his laser screwdriver in this again. So shout out to them for bringing that back.
And he does use it.
We get now. Do people remember from Extremis? There's a very famous line where Missy says, "Knock yourself out." Actually, do knock yourself right out. Well, in this thing, the Doctor says, "Knock yourself out," and then Missy comes up behind the Master with an umbrella and knocks him right out. I thought that was terrific.
Yeah. So Missy's a double crosser.
Yeah.
Missy just wants to be on whatever side's winning.
Charlie Sheen. Not bipolar.
Yeah.
By winning.
Yes.
Ancient memes.
No, this is good. I haven't heard these ones. Yeah. I know the winning thing. You're going to get sick and tired of winning. Also, I got told. You're just going to start winning so much, you're going to get sick and tired of it. Is it interesting that the Doctor holds Missy's hand and actually stays her for a moment?
I think
She
it's...
says,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all I was going to say about it.
I was going to say, I think it's... At the end of Eaters of Light, she's crying and the Doctor takes her arms, but he doesn't take her hands, and he says something like, "This might be for real," and she's like, "Is it?" And he's like, "That's the bad thing about hope, is that you can never ignore it, or it's difficult to ignore," something like that. And he doesn't grab her hands and he lets go, and I think this is a tacit admission on the Doctor's part that he hopes that she's telling the truth, that she's on his side.
And to sort of bolster that, he does it again later when he's trying to convince both the Master and Missy to be on his side as well.
Yes. And interestingly, he only takes her hand, not the Master's, because he knows the Master's unredeemable.
Yeah, well, he did try to kill all of humanity and turn them into the Master race, lest we forget that awkward moment in Doctor Who history.
I really like how they're having the Master and Missy interact in this, and you can see that the Master is a lot more impulsive, and you're about to see that in the scene coming up. But Missy is a lot more calculating, and obviously has all the best lines too. Like in this one, she's saying she can't decide whether or not to help the Doctor because she's in tuned minds at the moment. Fortunately, the other one's unconscious.
Well, now we get some funny lines because Nardole shows up and they go onto the ship and the Master sits down and he goes, "The Doctor's dead. He told me he never liked you." And Nardole's like, yeah. And then Missy comes in and she's like, "The Doctor's dead.
Yeah.
He told me he never liked you."
He told me he always hated you. Let's go. And Nardole says, yes, I heard you the first time. It's classic.
But then Bill.
When she goes up to the shuttle, she's got an umbrella in her teeth. Or she's got a sonic umbrella in her teeth. I just love that too.
Got to put it somewhere while you're climbing the ladder.
Well, this is true. But yeah, Nardole's pretty epic with this bit. So we now know that he wasn't running away from the Doctor. The Doctor had sent him off to get the shuttle. Mm-hmm. You know what it reminds me of? I just thought of this then. Have you ever watched Firefly?
I have.
I've watched the first episode and Serenity.
Wow.
I think it's in the first episode. So everything's going south, and suddenly it pops up. It's Serenity, isn't it, the name of the ship? Yeah. Serenity pops up. It was kind of like, this reminded me of that now that I'm thinking about it. You know, just the epic save.
Yeah.
And I think this illustrates the Master's a lot more impulsive than Missy, because he's like, with Nardo, stop mucking around. He tries to grab the controls even though it might send the ship to its doom.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Bill's back, so look out.
Well, now that you mentioned that, I kind of wanted to talk about, the Master and Missy, like in tandem type thing. And what I never realized until now is that it's actually John Sims' Master that is sort of the break in this like tradition of, Roger Delgado, Anthony Ainley, and then, Michelle Gomez. He's the one who actually...
Eric Roberts.
Okay, whatever. The big three, the big four, including Sim. But like, he's the one that actually really is different. He's the more angry one. He's the more impulsive one. And in some ways, he's not as scary as the others because of that. In my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Actually, I didn't like his doctor a lot. Partially though because stuffing your face full of greasy chicken is just doesn't. Yeah, I will always associate that with this doctor. But I agree. I didn't think his doctor was scary, and I actually thought the first time I watched this episode, I thought he just got shown up. I wasn't sure if it was by Michelle Gomez acting the hell out of this. I don't think it was, though. I think it's how they have written them, and that they have written them in the way that I was saying. He feels like a little annoying kid up the back of the class throwing rubbers at you, whereas she feels like she could suck your heart out at any second just by a flick of her finger.
But that's why I love John Sims' Master, though, and that's why I think he works so brilliantly, is because he's impulsive because the 10th Doctor is impulsive. The Master has always...
Right.
The Master has always been a character whose character traits are like a dark version of the Doctor. So Delgado was always very posh and restrained because that's how Pertwee was. And Ainley was like that because he was the opposite of Davison's Doctor. We get Michelle Gomez like this as well because she's the opposite of Peter Capaldi, who again is another like restrained, posh Doctor. John Sim was playing off of David Tennant, and a Master like Delgado or Ainley or Gomez would not have worked against David Tennant's Doctor.
Yeah, and that's something
I'd say that.
That's something we actually mentioned when in Missy's first appearance, is like this interpretation only would not have worked with Matt Smith or David Tennant. So I am very
biased because I said she's my favourite, so I'm very biased. But as I said, on second viewing, I thought Sims is doing a very good acting job as well, but he has been given a certain role to play. The bit where he says, look at this face because this is the face that just didn't listen to anything you just said, that was delivered perfectly, I felt.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I love that.
Because it makes me just want to punch him, and I'm not an aggressive person, or slap him. It makes me just feel like going, slap!
Well, maybe it's the sense... I just thought of this, so it's not too developed of an idea, but maybe it's the sense that like the Master is someone who can really rile the Doctor up in ways other people can't. So when you do that, when you do those sort of switches of like, imagine Peter Capaldi with John Sim, is like, is John Sim really going to rile Peter Capaldi up? I don't know. Or is Michelle Gomez really going to rile the 10th Doctor up? I don't know. And
he doesn't rile him up.
No.
Is the thing.
No, it's really...
He doesn't even rile Bill later when he's trying to rile her up.
No, and you can tell it's really Missy who's getting and has been getting under the 12th Doctor's skin.
Right.
Maybe, too, it's because now that we've had Missy and we've had that extra layer of flirting plus hating, that now the earlier incarnation doesn't seem like it's got quite as much tools available to it. Quite as many, I should have said.
Possibly,
I do not know. We get a promise from the Doctor to Bill. I will get you back again, I swear. Oh, when he said that, I thought, that's a big promise.
He's the Doctor. He's basically a superhero.
He's the Mysterio of his time.
The Shakespeare.
Yeah, once you're cybered, I don't know how much of you's left to come back.
Well, she was the very first, so probably a lot.
Was she the first one cybered, did you think? I thought there were others before her.
That was the way I interpreted the Doctor's lines about her being... When he says she's freshly made or something, but also there's like a couple... The way I interpreted some of the lines that the Master says about it, I just took it to mean that she was like the very first. Especially since they had only just invented that helmet for the pain when she came into
Oh,
the
yeah.
room. They were like, "We just invented this. We haven't used it yet."
Well, that's going to make me watch this in a whole new way again. That's cool. So we now get an explanation. We now got why we've got a Cyberman carrying Doctor Who, or Doctor, I should say Doctor. I'm just breaking my own rule. We've got a Cyberman carrying the Doctor, so we know that now. Now, I found this an interesting point. Obviously, Nardole and Time Lords don't age because we know it's taken them at least, 500 years or so to get up to this level.
Yeah, the lifts. That's the thing about the time thing in this. The lifts seem to be immune from all time effects.
Yeah, they were. They don't actually mention that, but like you can tell based on how they're used, and it's consistent that like you can, when you use the lift, like you're in your own time zone until you get off on the floor that you get off on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
so you can't age in the lift.
I think you age according to the speed, according to the floor that you got it on the lift.
That's how it had to be, right? That's how they used it consistently in the episode. They never actually had any dialogue explaining that.
No, it's too subtle for me to pick. We're back to horror conventions again. Why is this woman terrified of Bill?
Because Bill's a Cyberman.
I love this. It's so good. So, yeah, why is Bill in the barn? We've got horror, and I love this reveal with the mirror. Oh, it's so good. Yeah. And we've got the extra layer of horror because Bill just doesn't know. She just doesn't know.
Right.
Yeah.
And we fast forwarded 2 weeks. She's been knocked out the entire time. She doesn't have the context or anything. And they could have actually, I feel, done more with this because she is locked up in here, and she is essentially, if it wasn't for maybe the doctor, and maybe Nardole, these people aren't having Bill. Bill's the enemy in their eyes. So I don't know. I did like what we got for sure.
I think they do explain it later, which is good, which they say that it's actually Bill's strength of mind that's blocked out the fact that she was cyberized. Right. So I did like that they said that later. To me, this smacked of Dalek Oswald Oswald, the kind of reveal. So we've now had, again, genesis of the Daleks, genesis of the Cybermen, genesis, someone turning into a Dalek they didn't know, someone turning into a Cyberman they didn't know. So they're borrowing a lot of stuff, but I'm okay with that. If it's good stuff to borrow, then go for it.
Definitely.
We have a jelly baby being offered in a brown paper bag.
So this is
Tom.
Yeah, and Dylan and I keep a jelly baby count on the site, so this is like the first time in forever that it's going to be updated.
No, since Mummy on the Orient Express.
Okay, well, that's forever ago in my mind.
Yeah, I like this line too. All Cybermen want to do is turn everyone else into Cybermen. They go viral. It's Capaldi's Doctor being hip again. And
it's the Capaldi era being focused on memes again.
Yeah.
Which it very much is, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like
Dab.
a modern thing.
I mean, we had Dab in this episode.
Yeah.
I like the creative choice they've made here that we can actually see Bill reacting to finding out what she really is.
Yeah, the way this is done with her being a Cyberman is really good in my opinion.
And it's the little girl, I believe, who brings her the mirror.
Yes.
So I don't know that it's the child in this situation who's kind of giving her what she needs to see or what she will eventually figure out. And the doctor also does intervene a bit and kind of break it to her. And
the slow burn with the little girl is fantastic because we don't know what this thing is. It's enshrouded in a shawl. So then you remove the shawl and you see it's something. It's a rectangle in shape. And then as it slowly gets turned over, you see it's a mirror. And you're still not sure what you're seeing. And then they swing the camera around and you see it's a Cyberman. I thought that was just done so well. And that's Rachel Talalay again. She's made these creative choices.
Right.
Because the script would have just said something like, girl brings in mirror to Bill, or something similar, brings in object to Bill. Bill removes shawl, takes it off, turns it over. But the amount of time spent on each of those parts of the scene, the pacing of that would have been solely up to the director.
Right.
So it was that incredible tension that you went, oh, what on earth has that girl brought in? And then, you know, what is it? And then it's turned over and you go, it's a mirror. Why would that matter? And then, yeah.
Well, Bill actually freaks out about this. She has a sort of violent outburst and she can't control her weapons, so she shoots a massive laser and destroys half the barn. And this is where yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, we actually had 2 more reveals before that. So we had the glove reveal where she goes to scratch her head and she sees her hand is not her hand anymore. And then we have the shadow reveal where she's sort of chasing Capaldi down, and then she sees her shadow as the Cyberman. For the first time realizes, oh, that's right, I am a Cyberman.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So then the anger thing I thought was great.
Yeah, and this is where where at least I kind of pieced together that they're fortifying for like a pretty big battle. Seems like.
We get that delicious line too. Nothing to see here. Somebody broke the barn. No biggie.
So yeah, yeah, go on.
Yeah, Matt Lucas, I just think is on his comedy game here. So you realise that he came from a comedy background as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. But the other thing about him, which not everybody knows, is that he also performed in the 25th anniversary concert of Les Miserables, playing Master of the House. We've got Cybercrying again, which we talked about earlier. So I do like the detail here of the Master's collar turned up on one side. To me, that's, again, him just being impulsive. He's just throwing this jacket on. He doesn't care.
Well, it's obvious that they're, he and Missy are plotting something, right, from all of this. So it seems as if, or I guess I got the impression that they hadn't been helping out. They'd been in the background, sort of just maybe skulking about, doing their own thing type thing.
Which we do get the scene of later with them in the basement, but we'll get up to that. I thought the insult robo-mop wasn't clever enough. I would have gone with robo-slop. That's what I would have done. And it's interesting too. We see this scene first from his perspective and then from hers, and he's trying to upset her, and she says, "I'm not upset." We get the lovely line, "Well, doesn't that take all the fun out of cruelty? Might as well roll a fridge." Very well written. But we find out later that she's not saying she's not upset because she realises what a silly little throwing rubbers at the back of the class boy he is. She's actually not upset because she's sad, because he was her friend, and he betrayed her. So yeah,
it's rough to have a friend betray you.
Well, then we see the Doctor start to regenerate, so that's a bit like, oh, okay.
He's holding it off.
Yeah.
He's holding it back.
Because you know that you always regenerate except when you don't. That's what's going on here. Also, I found out from this that apparently you can stop yourself regenerating by shoving your hands into snow.
Yep. And shouting no really loud.
Yeah, and shouting no. Pro tips if you ever find yourself regenerating.
Or dying.
Yes.
Just shout no and you'll live. No.
Your death will be like, oh, shoot, man, you really want to live.
Oh, okay.
Okay, dude, okay.
I'll let you go. But then you'll be like me and live forever and you'll hate yourself.
Oof.
So, nice little horror bit here. Children's bodies are smaller and he's finding it hard to explain why, and the Master has no problem. There's less to throw away.
Right.
That's revolting. Imagine carving up pieces of humans and just chucking their bodies away like they're nothing.
Please no.
And this line is brilliant too. "You said you could get me back," says Bill to the Doctor. "Were you lying? No. Were you right? No."
Yeah, I mean, you can tell, and Capaldi's great there too. I mean, you can tell the devastation the Doctor feels. So it's not only on Bill's side.
This scene is amazing, and this was where Pearl Mackie really stood out as an actor for me, delivering lines like "hanging on in a hurricane," "I don't want to live if I can't be me anymore."
And
yeah,
I think a lot of this works. Even more, especially like considering the backdrop. This is all set on like these idyllic like rolling hills, meadows, and farmland and stuff. But there's this impending danger as well that is coming.
We have this bit where Capaldi says, or Capaldi 12 says, is it possible? She's like, is it possible for me to come back? And he says, but you know what else isn't possible? Cybermen crying.
Mm-hmm. And like I said earlier, sorry, I was just say this is the line that I interpreted to mean like he knew that those tears weren't Bill's. Well,
it all depends on whether you think the Doctor always has everything planned out, or whether he or she does things just by the seat of their pants, on the fly.
Yeah, I mean, yes, that is true. But I also feel like it fits in with his lines where he was saying, were you lying? No. Were you right? No. And I think in my interpretation of this sequence of events, the subtlety appears in the word "were you right?" In that the Doctor, I think, at this point has figured out he knows how Bill is going to be saved, but it's not through him. So he wasn't lying in the fact that she'll be okay in that sense, but he wasn't right in saying that he was going to be the one to bring her back.
Now, see, I took a different interpretation because she says, you said you could get me back. Were you lying? He's saying no because I thought I could. And then she's saying, were you right? And he says, well, I now know that I wasn't right. Mm-hmm. But I can see both. I can see what you're saying for sure.
I think both interpretations are equally valid. I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to look at any of this, really.
Oh, it's okay. I'm going to come over the States and fight you about it.
All right, well...
It'll be Sonics at dusk.
Well, we'll see if you can get through LAX first. If you can survive LAX, you can win by default.
Well, I have actually been to the States a lot of times. I think over 10 now. And, yeah, LAX. I always have a joke when I get to LAX. I always say to my partner, welcome to the US. Take your shoes off. No, really, take your shoes off. So, yeah, it's my favourite thing about LAX, taking the damn shoes off. All right, so then we have the whole, the thing about why the Master, why Misty can't remember the Master, and I just put memory out of sync, timeline, blah, 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 same old thing.
Yeah, and I don't even remember the exact explanation. It was that she somehow blocked the memory or something.
It's the same thing when the multiple Doctors are together and they're like, well, why don't you just remember everything? And they're like, well, I can't because only the latest Doctor to go through these events can remember them because of the Blinovich limitation effect or whatever the hell.
I do like this line too. Oh, is the future going to be all girl? We can only hope. And that to me is a sly nod to Jodie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are definitely hints towards, and I don't think was it known at this point that Jodie Whittaker was going to be the next?
Not publicly, but I think behind the scenes they knew.
Yeah. So they're definitely...
They would have known ages, yeah.
So there are definitely nods towards that in this.
Because don't forget that Rachel Talalay also directs the episode after this. Mm-hmm. Twice Upon a Time, I think it was, from memory. And Jodie's in that. And you have to start preparing for those very early.
Right.
These things just don't happen like this. They're always a couple of episodes ahead. So there's the crew and the cast would have known by that stage.
Right. And I think it was announced not long after this episode.
It was shortly after. Looking through my Twitter feed, it was pretty shortly after.
Because I specifically remember discussing Jodie Whittaker being the Doctor in August of 2017.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was the best Doctor reveal I've ever seen. So with Capaldi, they just brought him out on the stage and people asked him questions. But the actually doing a short
2 weeks
film clip, perfect. And I'm sure you've seen the meme, the little girl watching it, getting excited and saying, the doctor's going to be a girl or something.
Mm-hmm. My favorite meme to come out of that, though, was this thing I didn't even realize I retweeted from Who FX. The rusty wheel had previously appeared in part 1 of Mark of the Rani.
Oh, that's great. Mark of the Rani. Oh, Mark of the Rani is such a good show. Everybody should watch Colin Baker at least once. He's the second best Doctor.
Yeah.
No, he does have some good episodes. Time Lash is not one of them. Although I didn't hate any of his episodes. Oh, except for maybe the first one with the twins. Oh, my goodness. They couldn't have miscast that any worse. Sorry, fellas, if you're listening, but you were crap.
Yikes.
What's Vengeance on Varos, is that one of his?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the one where they have to put them through all this simulation and they pretend to execute them. I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not giving much away, but yeah, I think that is actually in the top 10 of all-time Doctor Who episodes.
Whoa.
I know, big call. I'm standing by.
Says the guy who likes Armageddon Factor.
And don't forget Rings of
Big call,
Akaten.
I'm not the only person to say that, so watch it. It's good, and I think the Dalek episode with Colin Baker is also very good. So he doesn't always do bad stuff. Just while we're talking about the weirdest thing about Colin Baker's time is he's got a botanist companion. She dies just before the episode that's all focused around plants.
Yeah, I remember us discussing that at that point.
And they get a computer scientist for that episode.
Have you ever heard Nicola Bryant talk about her final scene? Well, not the final scene with Brian Blessed. That was just disgraceful. But her final scene when her body got taken over.
Mm-mm.
Well, she was looking forward because she had to play this type, which they used to call something for the dads. So they'd chuck someone in who was wearing a female who was young and wearing next to nothing to keep the dad's attention. I mean, how sexist is that they think that dads can't concentrate on anything else? But, Anyway, so she'd been playing this character who screams a lot, gets tied up, doesn't have a lot to do. She has more to do than you'd think, though, if you rewatch it. Anyway, so the actor actually finally gets a bit to act. She gets this really heavy scene where she's changed bodies. She gets to use her natural voice. She lowers it. She's worked out all these facial expressions that she can now use for the first time. And they put the makeup on and then they go to lunch. And when they come back from lunch, she's wearing a bald wig and it has started to come unglued. And they say to her, sorry, Nicola, you're going to have to do this scene without moving a muscle or your hair's going to show. And she goes, I cannot believe it. The first time I actually get to act properly. So she still does a really good job. If you watch it, you'll be impressed by it, I think. I just feel so sad for her that, and then they Brian Blesseded her right at the end.
Hey, sign me up for Brian Blessed. I was going to say when you were like, only for the dads to pay attention, I'm like, I only pay attention to Brian Blessed. So if Brian Blessed's not in it, then count me out.
So you only paid attention to Mind Warp?
Exactly. Nicola Bryant, nah. Brian Blessed, that's my jam.
I mean, I don't hate Brian Blessed. I must, yes.
Cross between the two.
But he is a meme, the old Brian Blessed.
Still kicking. Still mountain climbing.
He should come back to Doctor Who. You know what, Chris Chibnall, if you're listening right now, bring Brian Blessed back. You wanna increase the ratings? Brian Blessed.
And Pip and Jane Baker as writers. He should give him a go. They might write something really good. He doesn't have to film it if he doesn't like it.
Isn't there that video clip of Chris Chibnall basically explaining what's wrong with classic Doctor Who, and it basically boils down to Pip and Jane Baker?
Yeah.
No, he's not explaining what's wrong with classic Doctor Who. He's explaining what's wrong with that particular episode that they wrote.
Yeah, it was Terror of the Vervoids, and he hated it, and he let them know that he hated it.
Yeah, so I don't see him hiring them ever.
That was also the interview where they revealed they had never watched Doctor Who before writing for it, which didn't come across well to Chibnall and probably other fans.
I don't have a problem with that, to be honest, because sometimes you get a fresh take.
Yeah, that's
yes,
fair.
And sometimes you get Terror of the Vervoids.
Yeah. But I'm sure there's been people. I'm sure there's been people like Neil Gaiman. Did he write? He started writing in, I think, Tennant's era.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, did he come out and say that he had never watched it?
It would be inevitable that somewhere somebody hadn't watched Doctor Who did a really good episode.
Yeah.
I mean, we certainly had that with directors. So Graham, Caves of Androzani, that was his first ever direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's his name?
What's the last name?
Hyper.
Harper, yeah. And he's done some of this, second series as well.
And I mean, don't forget Terry Nation. He wrote for Doctor Who before ever having watched it.
He
Because it
basically
didn't exist.
created
Because it
Doctor
didn't
Who, though.
exist.
That's like saying like David Whittaker wrote for the show before watching it. Like, okay, yes, you're technically correct, but
You know who's really interesting? The guy, now I'm terrible with names unless I look them up first, but the guy who, oh no, I can't, that's going to spoil. Never mind. I'll try and write a letter in about that.
okay.
I personally thought it was nice to see the latest version of Cybermen emerge from the lift. Sort of, to me, tied everything together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and definitely, I mean, you can imagine that time is passing at like an exponentially faster rate on the floor that we'd seen previously. So, nice little touch there that they had advanced Cyberman technology and weaponized them.
Yeah.
And we get that Dr. line, well done, genius twins, to me again, referencing, maybe not, not, they weren't doing this deliberately, but the Lutece twins in Bioshock Infinite are actually genius because they worked out how to bring themselves into contact. So maybe sly nod there.
Well, I just realized I'm going to call into question Keon's you don't age in the elevator thing, because now they're like, why don't we just take the elevator to the bridge to get the TARDIS and then like take everyone and leave? And the doctor's like, because the time it would take us to get to the bridge, like because of how time runs slower, the higher we go, the more time that the Cybermen will have to find a way to stop us. And by the time we get to the bridge, they will have found an impenetrable way to stop us, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So once they get off the elevator, they'll be in this like hell world. But while they're on the elevator, they'll just be listening to elevator music and chilling.
Well, it also does make sense of something that happened earlier when Razor says to Bill, you can't go up in the elevator because your heart will stop. Now, we know at this point she's got a cyber heart, but so how would a cyber heart stop? Well, the Cybermen must constantly have to be upgrading themselves like computers. So maybe she wouldn't be able to upgrade and her heart would stop. I mean, he could just be lying too.
Well, she's not allowed to leave the hospital grounds is the thing, because when she walks around with Razor, she takes one step too far and then the heart stops working. It's like, return to hospital grounds, return to hospital grounds. And Razor's like, this is why you can't leave the hospital, Bill.
Well, the Masters have their own, well, the Master and Missy. I don't want to group them under just them being both the Master, but they have their own plans, which the Doctor desperately, pleads with them, like, hey, like, we need to stop this, it's the right thing. And he has a big, actually pretty heartfelt speech about this, about doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. The Spike Lee movie. Yeah,
because Missy and the Master are going to bugger off because Missy remembers someone telling her to carry an extra dematerialization circuit, and the Master has blown his dematerialization circuit, so it works out conveniently, so she can fix his TARDIS and they can leave in his TARDIS instead of the Doctor's, and his TARDIS is on the bottom floor where the Cybermen will no longer be because they'll be invading floor 507.
It's actually really clever though, and how good is that scene? So basically, you basically have me to thank for that. You're welcome. They're talking about dematerialization circuit.
Yeah, there's no way Stephen Moffat would be able to leave Doctor Who without putting the so-called bootstrap paradox / impossible object, in the episode. You wouldn't dare.
That scene between Missy and the Master left a lot of people feeling a little bit uneasy that children were watching the show. In the bit where he says, is it wrong that I...
Well, she says
yes.
Goes, yes. So
Selfcest.
But this is interesting, though, because earlier on they were saying, hold me, kiss me. Like she was saying, kiss me. So I think it's just giving us a little bit of a hint that she's not as bad as he was. She can still draw a line. She can still say, no, I'm sorry, you can't have sex with yourself. Whereas he's not interested in drawing that line at all, really.
There are no boundaries for the John Sim Master.
Well, later on when she calls him back out of the lift, it's implied that, come here, and he's like, why? And she's kind of, well, we might do that thing you were talking about. But then, no, they're stabbery, but we're getting up to that. You notice how there's always a handy service duct in every film and TV show that you can get people... out of a situation through.
Sounds like a TV trope.
Yeah. I do like, is that windmill important?
No reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he says no reason afterward, that's what really sells it.
So it turns out that, all of this is just holographic, right? So they're actually standing on top of volatile material. So Nardole figures out how to, I guess, rig that to explode, or just it's already rigged to explode because it's all metal and stuff.
He has to do it through his computer.
Right.
Because then the Doctor takes the tech into his screwdriver later.
Right. So they're definitely preparing this sort of battlefield, and this is when the Master and Missy are going off, and the Doctor tries to stop them, unsuccessfully for John Sim, but then unsuccessfully, but not as unsuccessfully for Missy. It seems there's still some sort of hint of like, okay, yes, I do want to do this, Doctor, or like, yes, I'm sincere in this moment, type thing.
Yeah, there's a theory that I'm slightly partial to, but also not, that when the Doctor grabs Missy's hand, he feels the blade in her coat sleeve and knows what she's going to do, which is why he lets her go and doesn't make any more of a fuss and kind of seems not as upset as he was in the moment before.
Huh.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah, never thought of that.
It's...
Just one thing I forgot to mention earlier too. I'll keep finishing off that thought.
No, I mean, that was the end of the thought, was like, it's a thing. So it's like, that's the end of the thought.
I noticed later when the Master and Missy were talking downstairs together, you know how I said she was putting on lip gloss in the background in one of the scenes between the Master and the Doctor? Mm-hmm. In this one, he's putting on eyeliner, which I just thought was fantastic. So he's getting ready to be a woman, either that or he just likes how it looks on Missy. But I just thought that was gorgeous. All these little throwbacks all the time to things that have happened earlier.
Hey, guys can wear eyeliner.
So I don't know if Missy and the Master getting it on is something for the dads. It doesn't feel quite like something for the dads to me.
No, again, I only watch for Brian Blessed.
For Brian Blessed. Bring him back. This was very clever from a filmmaking perspective. The Doctor using the toys upstairs with the girl to show what was about to happen. So rather than him sitting down and saying to her, right, this is what we're going to do, blah, 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 which is exposition like that is boring for the audience to watch. He does it with the toys, and I just think that is, again, fantastic direction. I don't know if it was in the script, but I bet it wasn't.
Right, and they're all sort of getting ready for this, showdown.
Right.
And Nardol's getting some.
Yeah, this was weird. This was
Divas and Star Cops weird.
I like this because he's quite childish, so he's avoiding it, and then he thinks, I'll say the ultimate. I'm not human, and she just says, I'll try anything once.
Luckily for him, I guess they're interrupted.
Right.
By more horror. So Bill gets shot. I think this was just full of so much horror and pathos, the bit where she says, I understand. And we know now that what her perspective as she says that, even though we're now seeing her as a Cyberman.
Right. Well, yeah, she kind of turns and leaves and goes to wait with the Doctor, and then the first kind of wave of Cybermen arrives at that moment, and the kid goes out to do what they were told to do. They throw an apple, and it blows up a whole bunch of Cybermen, and the Doctor comes in, and he's like, this is all part of my plan. Now the Cybermen see us as a threat instead of possible conversions. And Bill's like, what? Why is that a good thing?
And also we get the line again, from the Doctor, I don't like guns. Mm-hmm. And then, so that's the other thing people say about Colin Baker. Oh, well, he used guns. He used a gun against Cybermen. Yeah, but different regens are different, act like different people.
Right.
Right, so, yeah.
Capaldi delivers, because we've said the line's a little bit out of order. Capaldi delivers this extremely well. Who I am is where I stand is where I fall.
Right.
And you saw it. See, I saw it as the hand grab doesn't work this time, but you saw it as he's possibly feeling the blade in her sleeve. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Michelle Gomez acting in this scene is perfect as well. I liked her as Missy. I thought she was terrific. And it would have been, as with Christopher Eccleston, very difficult to pull off the first female master. He's the first Doctor of the rebooted series. Mm-hmm. But I really think excellent writing helped her a lot. However, you've still got to deliver excellent writing just correctly, particularly comedy. I think I've already said she's hands down my favourite regeneration of the Master. Be interesting to see if they do another one.
I'm sure they will. There's been rumors that they've recast the Master for the upcoming season.
Huh.
That would be awesome.
Interesting. Well, they pretty much have to, recast the Master whether or not they, bring the Master back in the next season because of what happens here. They sort of go out into the woods. They're at the elevator. And then this is when, Missy does the, come here thing. And he's like, what? Why?
She stabs him in the back.
Yeah.
I love this moment. The first time I watched it, I don't think I quite got it because I thought it was very tragic that the Doctor would never know that, like, Missy decided to go back. But then I realized that that's the entire point. Like, the whole thing about in Extremis, the whole thing when she's about to be executed and Nardole reads the quote and it's like, goodness is only goodness without hope, without witness, and without reward. Virtue is only virtue in Extremis. And Missy's good act here is unwitnessed. Nobody knows about it except for her. Literally her, because the Master will now go and regenerate into her. Like, nobody knows what she's done. And that, I think, is like, that's why this moment works so well.
Sort of the payoff for that.
And what a terrific loop in time for the Master to be stuck in.
Mm-hmm.
Forever shooting himself in the back.
And they John Sim has that line of like, this is such a perfect, thing for the Master of like, they both kill each other. They both stab each other in the back.
Because the most horrible thing for the Master, I think, would be to be killed by the Doctor.
Yeah, the Master says that at the start of the episode. He's like, I would rather die than beg for your help, Doctor.
Yeah. There was a little sly joke too before that. Oh no, I don't think we've got there. That's okay. It's quite. I felt quite sad seeing that picture of Missy lying on the ground as the camera panned up.
Yeah, the Master says like, don't bother regenerating. You got the full blast, but it's the Master, so we all know that he/she will be back in some form is eventually.
Because the Master always dies, except when she doesn't.
I think, like every time in the classic show, almost every episode ended with him dying, quote, dying, unquote, or like disappearing into the void or something, like when he got crushed in the
Claws of Axos, or
that. And then I was going to say, like, when his pocket universe that he was using Adric to keep together, Castrovalva collapsed, or when he burned in the fire in Planet of Fire.
Yeah, it's basically a Master tradition.
Stephen Moffat apparently said that this being 507 was a reference to Russell T, because apparently Russell T would always use the number 57 if he needed an absurdly large number or like just a random number for things. You'd always use the number 57, but whether you believe that or not.
I do like this. I love this bit where Nardole takes off his glasses and then he takes off an invisible pair straight away. Did you notice that? It was very fast.
I didn't notice it, no.
If you go back and look, and I thought, am I just making this up? No, it's very deliberate. He takes off his first, and then he takes off an invisible pair. I just think it's delicious. And I also like this line, you know me, if there's more than 3 people in a room, I start a black market. You go and farm the humans.
Yeah, so we get like a little bit, we get like a taste like of Nardole's dark past. And this is so interesting to me. I almost wish they did a little more, but I think that's also why I kind of liked it. Is you just get like, you just dip your toe in the water for 1 second and you're back in the story at large type thing.
It's a bit like Phoebe in Friends. You know, the funny one,
Friends.
suddenly you learn things. Oh, okay. Well, some people will get that reference. Yes, I like Seinfeld.
Somebody out there will get your reference, though.
Well, the reference is that the funny one in the group turns out to have quite a dark past.
Those who laugh the hardest typically are the most damaged.
Yes. But it ends up being that some of the darkest parts of Phoebe end up being people's favourite parts. And I think, here we're saying, well, we'd like to hear more of Dark Nardole. And I also like the line, oh, great, she's allowed to explode.
Yeah, because Bill is prepared to stay with the Doctor, whereas everyone else is going to evacuate because the Cybermen are already there, and they're about to attack.
But don't you reckon she's doing it because she's going, well, he can't save me, and I already said I'd rather die?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's why she's doing it for sure.
I thought Matt Lucas does a brilliant job here with the farewell, particularly the way he says Bill. And when he says to her, I never will, you're wrong, I never will be able to find the words. His acting in this bit was superb, I thought. He can do that kind of sad, puppy-eyed thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to miss Nardole.
Which is interesting because people hated his character.
Oh,
Really?
In The Husbands of River Song. Absolutely hated it and said, we can't believe he's coming back. How horrible is he going to be?
I've liked him since the beginning.
always been great.
Yeah, I like him. But then I like The Husbands of River Song, so,
It's my favorite Christmas special.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Mine is the one with when they've got the head crabs.
My least favorite Christmas special.
Which one was
Last
that? Oh, really?
Christmas.
Oh, I hate that one.
Yes, because I just love Shona. That's why I love that.
Oof. Keon hated Shona.
Oh, really? Oh, everyone's different, aren't they?
No, I won't say any more beyond this, but I think Last Christmas is one of the weakest Doctor Who episodes ever.
Well, a lot of people say that about this one coming up.
Oh, really?
Aw.
Yeah.
I thought this one coming up is like pretty good.
Well, coming from
This one coming up, I must have watched 20 times.
coming from someone who's never watched it, it doesn't seem like it's going to be very Christmas based. It seems like it's going to be more like plot driven type thing, a follow up to this.
You'll just have to find out.
I'm
Won't
gonna go
you?
home and watch it right after we record.
No, you're not.
Yes, I will.
No, you won't.
We had bad US accent here briefly again before, and we find out Missy. Oh, I think we've gone ahead of this, but I thought it was quite delicious that Missy killed herself even in the first bit where she stabbed the master.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the bit we were talking about earlier. They're saying, "Can you think of anything? Last words to say?" And they both, Bill and the Doctor, both say no. And then she says, "Oh, you know how I'm kind of all about women and kind of people my own age." And he goes, "Yes." And she just says, "Glad you knew that." I'm like, burn! You thought it was her letting him know that she was gay, but I think he knew she was gay. No, he already knew because she talked to him about fatting the woman with the chips.
Mm-hmm.
So it can't be her saying that she's gay. She's just leading him down the garden path. Well, I'm being kind of about women and people my own age. Yeah, glad you knew that. In other words, you never had any chance with me, so suck on that. And then we get the without hope, without witness, without reward.
Right.
The Doctor eats it.
Yeah, well, we get the entire battle scene.
Where he's
Which
reciting all the places he's defeated the Cybermen before,
Oh,
right.
including
Yes.
Canary Wharf.
Yes, I noticed that. I had that in my notes. I thought that was great.
Canary Wharf was more of a Dalek thing, but
If you're doing the list,
There were cyber people at Canary Wharf.
Yeah, they were, but then the Daleks opened up that Dalek prison and then just the Cybermen were like, well, shoot.
So then we get this big speech to the Cybermen. I'm not a doctor, I'm the Doctor. The original, you might say. Now, what I think he's doing here, he's actually programming the Cybermen, because these are the original ones, to be afraid whenever they hear his name. Because that's part of the Doctor's MO. He'll say to the Daleks and the Cybermen, "Oh, I think you've heard of me. I'm the Doctor." And they go, "Oh, shit, the Doctor. We better run away." Except they never do, but, one can only hope.
yeah, I
And,
didn't think of it that way. That's a sort of interesting take.
Apparently, if you get a full blast of a weapon, then you can't regenerate. So this Doctor gets the full blast of a cyber weapon, and then he gets the full blast of the planet. So it may be implied there's no regen for him.
And well, not only that, he got zapped by that Cyberman at the end of the first episode.
Well, yeah, there is that. And I do like this delivery by Capaldi yet again of Doctor, let it go, time enough. And pity, no stars, I hope there'd be stars.
But
Right,
don't worry,
recalling, when he reveals to Bill that he and the Master promised each other that they would see, all or like some certain amount of stars.
All of them.
Was it all of them?
Yes.
That was touching too. I thought him talking about those early days with his bromance.
Yeah, but don't forget, one of them kills that bully Torvald.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
I also think we've got a bit here. So, Bill is a bit like a dog waiting for its human when she's kneeling next to the doctor. I'm surprised she's still alive because he just wiped the whole planet.
Yeah, like how did she survive? All those other Cybermen got vaporized, and she's just like, "What up, my dude?"
But she was the first one, so maybe, and she's got that extra human element, so maybe they both helped.
Well, she's also she also has the help of a godlike, impenetrable being.
Like, maybe it was Heather, because Heather shows up now in like a super big twist that I did not see coming whatsoever.
That nobody saw coming.
Heather materializes.
Did you like it, or did you feel it was cheap?
No,
I felt it was cheap.
I liked it. I liked it because of the tear thing.
I like the tear thing, so it wasn't like out of nowhere. It was like, to me, set up for the whole story. I didn't like it because it's just Moffat doing the Moffat thing where he just rewrites the fucking companion right out.
Yeah, I mean, I even wrote in my notes, Clara 2.0, she basically gets the same resolution as Clara. She comes back to life, and now she travels the universe with an omnipotent being.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that annoyed me about Clara. I thought, again, it cheapens the sacrifice. If you just say, oh, everybody dies but nobody does, that to me is not good enough. Now, I think we're sophisticated enough in this day and age to go, we lost that companion and it's sad. But how amazing was her death? I think we're sophisticated enough to be at that point. And taking you back, so when Adric died, I watched that show live, and I just remember they rolled no music over the credits. They just had his badge, his mathematical badge, and I just sat there completely stunned. I'd never experienced anything like that on TV before. And, of course, going to school the next day, we were just all in shock. We're like, but nobody dies on Doctor Who. I mean, people have in the past, but that was a very big moment. So I think I miss that about this latest series, that you don't tend to get the monumental deaths. You do get things like Rose's dad and stuff like that. But yeah, I miss that kind of thing.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I do kind of, even for Clara, I will say I like Clara's resolution and Bill's as they are, but I think if they had, especially with Clara, I think if she had the death where you think she would have died, I don't know, I think it would have just hit home a lot more.
I guess if you look at it more like a reward rather than a resolution, it might sit a bit better. So if you think, well, these characters have given their life, but what they're getting in return is, because they've done such a momentous thing, we're now allowing them to do stuff they never would have been able to do before. So, Clara's off with me flying around the universe, and, Bill's off with, what's the girl's name?
Heather?
Heather, yeah. So she's off with Heather. So I guess, it's kind of nice that they gave up so much themselves and they're getting something back.
And they do have the thing of, they can never really meet the Doctor again. Well, not so much with Bill. Mm-hmm. Maybe more so with Clara.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we get a nice little scene. Oh, sorry, I had Bill as like a dog waiting for its human. That's not correct. I meant Nardole. So Nardole's at the lift. Mm-hmm. And he's finally figured out that, they're not going to be coming back. But he's been checking every day. And the kids come down and, they go back for tea. And one of them says, Hazran, Hazran, I think she likes you. And he says, oh, well, she's only human. But it's a nice take too. Rather than him starting a black market selling humans, he's now used to them not being property. So we don't feel so sad for him in his life.
Right. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they'll think of something with the impending Cyberman attack. They'll be fine.
I did also see that I thought it was a nice choice for us to actually see Bill again momentarily as human when she was with the dead Doctor. So we actually saw Bill not just as a cyber person, but as as Bill, which I think was very touching.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then, now I've got a note here. Oh, here we go. So I thought this was very akin to the regen that starts to take place. I thought this was very much like the Davison into Colin Baker regen, because that one had all the companions and they were all saying stuff to the Doctor. And we get that here. We've got lots of companions saying Doctor. But I think Strax was left out.
Yes, but was Strax really a companion?
Well, we're Jenny and Madame Vraska, because they were both in. You know what I think has happened? I think that probably that character never actually said the word doctor, so they couldn't use him.
Probably. I was going to say it's all woman, but then I realized that
no, it's
Captain
not.
Jack's in there, so that's a no.
Yeah.
Where's Adam?
I'm sure. Is Rory in there? I'm sure he is.
Where is Mickey?
Where's
yeah,
Mickey? Yep,
yeah.
see?
I think Rory was in it from memory. I'd have to go back though. And as I said at the start, apparently plunging your hands into ice stops regen. Who knew?
Well, now we get an amazing reveal.
Yes.
I unfortunately already knew about this, but the first Doctor walks out of the mist.
Yeah.
And he goes, I don't think that's correct or something. You might be a doctor, but I'm the Doctor, the original, you might say.
Which is, he uses the exact same lines that Capaldi used earlier, just like Missy used the exact same lines of the Master. So it's a nice little Moffat moment.
Moffat moment. Man, I can't believe we didn't coin that during the Moffat era. Moffat moment.
Moffat
That's
moment.
Great.
And I wasn't spoiled at all. So I was these whole 2 episodes for me, I was just, from one moment to the next going, oh, they didn't. So I was amazed by that. And I love how at the end they waited to reveal David Bradley until the credits.
The Doctors will return.
I really like how, I'm pretty sure they used David Bradley already when they had that thing where all the Doctors were together in Day of the Doctor. I'm pretty sure they had him standing
used
for one.
just a picture of William Hartnell, but David Bradley did play William Hartnell in the Adventures in Space and Time.
Right. And I like the reveal at the end. The Doctors will return.
At Christmas.
So we know we're getting him again. Yeah. Go.
No, I was just going to say the final Christmas special, because they switched it to New Year's. Unless they switch it back.
Unless they switch it back this year, yeah.
I've heard talk that there's going to be a Christmas one this year.
Well, they have a special, but the question is always like, is it going to be Christmas or New Year's?
Well, let's have a look, shall we?
Personally, I hope it's New Year's. That frees up Christmas for everyone to watch the masterpiece known as the Feast of Stephen.
Great. I heard a rumor that it's going to be a Christmas special that will reveal that the next season will start on New Year's Day.
Oh,
so
no, that's not going to happen.
Well, we'll find out. There's allegedly something happening on November 23rd, like a trailer or something.
And that's not
too
far
away. It says Doctor Who rumoured to be getting surprise Christmas special. So there's nothing. And then something else says, will there be... No, it's just people asking questions.
Yeah, just rumours all around.
I mean, I know that Jodie has shot... Well, not just Jodie, everybody. So everyone's coming back. And I know that they've shot... I don't know how far they are through the season or whether they've actually finished
I think they've finished.
Her and Chibnall wanted to take a year off because they've both got children, and I admire that. I think that's actually really good. Spend some time with your kids growing up. Don't just be an absent parent. So I think I said earlier I actually didn't like Capaldi much until I rewatched all his episodes, but he certainly grew on me. And the standout moment for me in this was the cyberfication of Bill, but also how she dealt with it. Whenever I think of this episode, it's always Bill getting turned into a cyber person for me, and then how horrific it was, and then how horrific it was her actually dealing with it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Capaldi, though, for me is I think one thing that really I think weakens his Doctor is Series 8. I just think that's such a weak series, and it's his first. And then, once we get 9 and 10, he started to grow on me a lot more. I just think the stories in 8 are not up to par.
Yeah, I would agree
Yeah, I think I'd
with
agree with
that. But I think it's like a Sixth Doctor situation where you have to separate the Doctor from the stories. Like, if you look just at the stories for the Sixth Doctor, I'd say like solid 75% of them are not good. But that doesn't mean I think his Doctor is terrible. That just means I think that he got short-changed on the scripts, right? And I think that happened in Series 8 for sure with Capaldi.
Do you think maybe the problem is when you're a writer and now you're directing, it's a big adjustment to make, and it also means that you're not going to be able to contribute to the writing as well? This is what I think about Chibnall, that he's got a lot on his plate and he's still writing, and he should just friggin' stop writing and concentrate on everything else. That's what I mean. To be honest, some of the, and I don't want to discuss this too much, but some of the ones he wrote for Series 11 I think are really solid. But it got to the point where when we were watching it, it would say written by Chris Chibnall, and me and my partner look at each other and say, "Oh no, please someone else." But as I will say again, it wasn't always that way. There were some that he wrote that were good. But I think it's divided attention.
Yeah, but I think that's just showrunner syndrome, because that happened with Moffat too. I mean, when I started the Moffat era for the first time, it was like, oh, Moffat script. But then it got to like,
No, Moffat script.
yeah, right. It's like, oh, I know exactly what the story's going to be. I know exactly what plot beats Moffat wants to put in the story. Do I even have to watch it?
The answer was
again,
yes,
it's like,
you did.
But again, it's divided attention. So now his stuff isn't as good because he's, the showrunner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know that. Just musing.
Yeah, we're almost at the end of the Moffat era, actually.
One more episode to go.
Single solitary episode.
And it's actually really, if you think about it, this is a triple episode arc, not a double.
Three-parter type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I would be surprised if the next one doesn't start right where this one ends.
It just skips like 20 years or something.
Well, spoilers, sweetie.
I know, Argy, this is the first time you've been on since we started sort of this new format where we kind of have topics at the end. For this one, I think I talked about everything I wanted to. I didn't really have anything big that I wanted to talk about at the end.
Yeah, no, I didn't have anything I wanted to talk about. We've hit everything I wanted to talk about.
Other than, I just also, I guess, wanted to reiterate, like, I think this is a very good set of stories. And that's it. There wasn't any wrench I wanted to throw into that. I just think it's very, good straightforwardly.
Yeah.
Well, so Phil might. I just fill people in on something. I take a lot more notes than these fellas, so that's why I often talk a lot more because I've hit a few more beats than them. But I got my husband to watch this with me. I did my notes last night, and at the end he said, "Oh, those two episodes are really good." And I said, "Yeah, I think they're some of the best in the series."
Yeah, these are very beloved episodes, and I mean, people hold these in. I always see people holding these two episodes in like really high esteem. I don't think I would put them way at the top of my list, but definitely people love these too.
Yeah, I'd put them pretty high up, I think. I like these two a lot. These are very compelling watching for me too. Like, I watched the first episode and I was like, I'll just watch the second one like in a couple hours or tomorrow. But then like 10 minutes later I was like, no, I gotta watch the second episode like right now.
Yeah. I mean, double masters again, so they are iconic because of that. But just everyone's acting is on par. The writing is very tight, and the direction, we must not forget, an episode is going to live or die on a good direction. And Rachel Talalay, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, in my opinion, in this. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have anything else to hit. I hit it on the way through.
Right.
Yeah, I think we can maybe just go into our sonic screwdriver count because again we keep track of it.
We keep track of it on air now.
I've it being used for classic unknown purpose, classic Moffat, episode
Every
unknown
episode,
purpose.
unknown purpose.
I've it used as a pen, calling lifts, turning on lights, closing and opening doors, blowing stuff up, disable holograms, keeping lift in place. I guess that's controlling lifts, and manipulate data.
Yeah, I've also got it for
sucking all the data out of the laptop.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've also got it being used as a communication device to communicate with Nardole at one point. Otherwise, I've got all the same stuff.
Yeah.
And then
I do like how the British say crisps. I think that's brilliant. Crisps and chips, because they're crisp when you eat them. Brilliant. Well done, UK.
You won this round. No.
you won this round like it's called competition now.
We lose it, I think, with our chips and chips.
And then we have quotes. No,
I don't know if you've got any quotes.
No,
I've got two. Missy, these are my disposables. Exposition and comic relief, which I know Argy said earlier. And then one from the doctor. When you're winning and I'm in the room, you're missing something.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That was a good line.
And as I say every week, I should try and have quotes every week, but no, I don't have any from this one. I won't lower my
somebody
standards.
messaged me last night and said, I haven't started watching the episodes yet.
Yeah.
Now, who would that have been?
Yep. Yeah, so I mean, I don't
that's
have
everything I've got.
more to say.
And can I just also say thank you to both for letting me on, and thanks for putting the podcast together in the first place. It's one of the Doctor Who ones that I enjoy the most. It's good fun.
Oh, well,
yeah,
we
of course.
that.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
and thanks for being on.
Yeah, thank
always
you for
happy
being
to
on.
have you and all our guests. So.
And taking 3 hours out of your day to be on our measly podcast. But it's good fun. No, it's been good, and we're looking forward to having you on again.
In a month,
about a month,
yeah.
I think, for Rosa.
Yeah,
because we have the Christmas special, and then we have Rosa. I believe is the 3rd episode of the next season.
Because it's Woman Who Fell to Earth, and then Ghost Monument, and then Rosa.
Yeah.
Damn, I remember that pretty well, having watched it almost a year ago. Well, if anyone else would like to email us, you can reach us at thedoctor@decorative.vegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on the 12th Doctor, the Stephen Moffat era as a whole, as we come to the end of that. You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify, all at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us on Twitter at TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. And thanks again, Argy.
Thank you again,
for being
Argy,
on.
for being on the show.
thanks for having me.
And next time we're going to be watching Twice Upon a Time. But until then, the end.